Here.
Representative Wise.
And we have Representative Bosch with us from Legislative Management as well again today. Okay, then we need approval of minutes from the August 7th meeting.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Senator Dever, Senator Axman. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Or do we have to do roll call? All good, right? Okay. Okay. This morning, we have a couple things, housekeeping things before we start. If you're going to speak to us this morning, we ask you to sign in at the table over there with your information. And if you have written testimony and you have it online and you haven't sent it to us yet, Victoria's email address is up there. Please send it to her and then she'll get it posted on the site for everybody to view afterwards, okay? We appreciate that very much. Okay, this morning we're going to do the same thing we did last week and we're going to ask everybody to step forward. Please identify yourself and who you're representing here. We're trying to allow 5 to 7 minutes of speaking time and then a couple minutes for questions and answers afterwards. Okay, we have some people online. If the online gets filled up a little bit fuller, we're going to flip back and forth. We're going to do one in-house and then one online to try to give everybody a fair shot at being able to talk to us today. Okay, Senator Axman, anything?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, we are ready to start then. Please step forward.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Bradley King.
Push the button so it lights up there.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Bradley King. I'm representing myself and just a few people, individuals that I know. I dropped off some written testimony, which she's hopefully going to get distributed with you. And I just want to hit a couple of highlights of of my input on this, and that is, number one, I don't think anybody's against outlawing 7-0H. In fact, the feds have already done this. It's a federal crime to do this, so that issue is pretty much over and done with. One of my concerns is I'm a retired dentist, and I used to deal with a lot of people in a lot of pain. And the federal government is making it more and more difficult for people with chronic pain to get treatment for that. You know, it used to be you could go to your GP and your GP could prescribe you something and put you on maybe some low-dose opioids or something like that to treat your chronic pain, but that doesn't happen anymore. If you come in with chronic pain now you have to go see a specialist. And with the high deductibles, you could end up spending $5,000, $10,000 out of pocket seeing a specialist and getting the medications that you need to treat your chronic pain. And for a lot of people, that's really getting out of reach. And if you even miss one appointment with these specialists, you're kicked, you know, and when you walk in the office, they kind of automatically look at you as being a drug seeker, and they're more concerned about controlling the medication that you get rather than trying to control your pain. And so that's what I see as one of the downsides of outlawing the natural kratom. I did some research online, and I would encourage you guys too, during your recess, if you have time, is just to go on to all the, you know, like the chat GPTs, all the different AI sites. I use Genesis and chat GPT and specifically asked, is there any records within the past 5 years of, in the United States, not just North Dakota, in the United States, of people overdosing or having reactions to natural kratom? And what I got back from ChatGPT is for 2021 to through 2025 specifically, there isn't currently trustworthy natural figure proving deaths caused exclusively by natural, unadulterated kratom leaf. I have a daughter who has, for 7 years, has worked at the ER at St. Alexis. And she says she has never seen, in all of that time and all of the horrific stuff that she's seen coming through, never seen somebody with a reaction or an overdose from natural kratom by itself. As far as, one of the things that was brought up is, well, nobody really knows what's in these things. Well, if you go over to natural grocers or you go over to Terry Health Products and you look at all the homeopathic medications that are over that, none of that's regulated either. One of the problems why kratom kratom naturally is being targeted is because it's being sold in convenience stores and gas stations. If it was just being sold at Terry's Health Products, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. So, I just know some people who have gotten off of opioid addictions by using kratom, and they also use it, daily to control their chronic pain. And it's an inexpensive way, at least where you can try to control the pain that you're dealing with day in and day out without having to mortgage your house or without having to, risk something that's more dangerous. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. King.
Thank you very much.
Further testimony?
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if Senator Hogan is a member of legislative management, if you'd like to invite her.
Just watching? Okay. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, committee. My name is Shelley Gunderson. I'm here with my husband, Greg, my daughter, Lexi, and we are concerned citizens. And we lost a child 7 years ago, our son, Nick. Our beloved Nick was just 31 years young when he died in Bozeman, Montana in 2019. He was a loving, kind, compassionate soul, but aren't all of our kids? And this is him, active as heck, healthy, brilliant. He was a great student, a wonderful friend, and a wonderful son. He'd been building homes in Big Sky, Montana for several years after graduating from Montana State Bozeman with a business degree, which he proudly completed in 4 years on the dean's list, despite transferring from UND after his freshman year and chronic snowboarding, as we called it. Unfortunately, injuries, starting with football right here at Century High School, eventually led to surgery and chronic pain for Nick's knee. This, along with self-medicating for anxiety and depression, all contributed to an opioid addiction for Nick. In 2017, he went to rehab for his addiction in Billings, Montana, and spent the next 2 amazing years in recovery. It was such a blessing. Then in 2019, Nick was found in his home by a friend, deceased. The trauma of his sudden death and the confusion of how did this happen led to an autopsy in the state capital of Helena, along with a toxicology report and testing. But we waited 2 months for that final coroner's report, all the time wondering if Nick had relapsed on opioids. The final report stated accidental overdose as cause of death. No opioids were found in his system. But metragenine was, and metragenine is the chemical component of botanical natural kratom. Call it what you want. Regular kratom, original kratom, natural, leaf. That's what I'm talking about. There was no synthetic 7-OH metragenine in his system. It wasn't even available back then. Instead, it was explained that this metragenine came from the kratom plant. Unfortunately, those with substance abuse issues and mental illness who are suffering in pain tend to take and mix substances together. And we all know not to mix meds with alcohol, and yet we do. Nick's body had a moderate amount of alcohol, 0.05, under the legal limit, along with the prescription nerve pain medicine gabapentin, and the metragenine from natural kratom. We were heartbroken and stunned. Nick commented to our family group at that rehab in Billings, that it wasn't going to be hard to stay, that it was going to be harder to stay away from kratom than opioids because it was everywhere. Yet most had never heard of kratom, including the medical personnel and some of the counselors. We learned it was marketed like a dietary supplement, the powdered green leaves encapsulated, but Nick said you could easily make it into tea. How benign, right? There really wasn't much about it. I do remember, though, a former opioid user calling it the lesser of two evils, and the fact that trying to stop kratom caused withdrawals was so alarming. In our grief and faith, we informed all that we could about what we were learning about kratom. It starts out as a stimulant, but at higher doses becomes a depressant.
Man,
It affects the same receptors as opioids. Our United States Drug Enforcement Administration thus making it illegal in our country. However, pro-K lobbyists, pro-kratom lobbyists,
this is why I don't like playing it when it's on their website.
Asia, okay? It's right above Australia in there. And I apologize, this is not even an updated map. It's a year old. Indonesia tried to ban kratom in 2016, but gave it until 2022 to implement. Why? Because it was a cash crop, and their farmers need to adjust. It affected their economy. So they postponed it again till 2024. So why do you suppose we're getting an influx of synthetics when the natural has been compromised and shut down? Of course, natural producers are conveniently against synthetics coming out. It's cutting into their business and profits. We've got to follow the money. But just look at where kratom is banned. It is illegal in the places that are red. Obviously, Russia's huge. It looks very overpowering there. But why do we in the West, where the green is, where it is legal or legal and unregulated or regulated, or legal not for human consumption, only for veterinarians, why are we so slow to see what these other countries are doing? Japan, Russia, Australia, right close to Indonesia, they have made kratom in its natural form and synthetics illegal. They have outlawed it. Until the governor's ban Wednesday, students at Century High School could run across the street at lunch and buy a number of different kratom products and beverages at the gas station readily available to anyone at any age. Yes, synthetic 7-OH mitragynine is now on the scene in frightening potencies, but the original form of mitragynine comes from original kratom. Call it what you will. Like I said, the research has revealed opioid tendencies in the latest studies, and obviously we need more. And just like marijuana, this plant-based kratom is cultivated and produced to be stronger as time goes on. How do you regulate kratom when it's constantly evolving? Why not ban the original unsafe culprit, the original kratom? We are thankful for the awareness of kratom's danger and that people are becoming aware. God bless all of you for fighting for lives to be saved. Synthetic 7-OH mitragynine was not around when my son died, but natural kratom was and still is even stronger. It's what Nick used and what contributed to his death. And I'm all for for pain management. There has to be a way for people to realize there are alternatives, because this kratom has been under the radar for too long. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Further testimony? Thank you.
Hey guys, how are you? Most of you guys know who I am. I'm Mo from Mo Smoke Shop, the owner of the most smoke shops in town.
Mo, can we get your last name?
Oh, sorry, Mohammed Wazwaz.
We're gonna ask you to spell it so we get it correct in the
Yep,
minutes.
Mohammed. Last name is Wazwaz, W-A-Z. So I am against the kratom ban and the hydroxy ban because I've been since 2020 when I came to Bismarck, I opened my first store in North Bismarck, and I made sure that before I put any brand or product on my shelves that everything should be tested, regularly. So that, in effect, if you guys do decide to ban this or whatever, it's going to impact the customers and my sales, as well as people doing other drugs. North Dakota is kind of that town where if they don't have something else to do, they're going to just start experimenting with other drugs, which is fentanyl on the street, heroin, meth, all that kind of stuff. Kratom is just a plant. I know hydrox is a lot stronger dose of kratom. Okay, so it's like 10 times strong, but regarding the plant for the mitragon and all different kinds of strains there is, I can be able to guys give you every single thing that I sell, and then you guys can test it and let me know if you guys see anything wrong with it before it goes back on the shelf or whatever you guys decide. But my main thing is like you guys said, there's as many deaths from kratom, okay? But we all know if you guys mix some different kinds of things with other things, it's obviously it's overdose, whatever you guys want to call it. If you mixed alcohol with anything, my main thing is if you guys do make it illegal here in North Dakota, people are just gonna find another way to get it, or they're gonna experiment heavy drugs on the street. You're gonna have a lot of backlash with people being upset that this stuff is illegal. If you guys wanted to make this illegal, or the federal government, they should have illegalized it a long time ago, make it federal wide. But if you do state by state, like for example, my brother's in South Dakota, and so the governor was looking into it, and they banned hydroxy, but they kept kratom on the shelf. So kratom level and hydroxy level is a whole different game compared to different strength. It's like 150 times stronger, but the regular kratom is all safe. There's nothing wrong with it. I have a lot of people, my customers use it, that they got off opiates and other heavy drugs to make them feel normal, And I wish that you guys do not look into this further. And if you guys do want more testing and lab results or whatever you need from me, I'm willing to give you guys everything that I sell so you guys can retest everything and make sure you guys are happy with the results. One more thing, if it's illegal in North Dakota and you guys do decide on September 2nd, people are just going to buy it from a different state, and you guys will be missing on tax dollars and sales tax or whatever. They're just going to get it from somewhere else. So it's not really, you guys are not really solving a problem banning it in one state. They're just going to go over to a different state and get it. Anybody has any questions for Mo?
Questions from the committee? Senator Axman.
Thanks, Chair Heinrich. Thank you, Mr. Wazwaz. Do all the products have a warning label about the dangers of mixing it with alcohol?
Yes, everything that I have, it'll tell you exactly, do not mix it with anything else. Whatever it is. Alcohol, opiates, anything like that. You can't mix anything with anything, There's a reason they keep it by itself, But all my stuff is lab tested, and I have lab results. So whenever if you guys ever want to see it, let me know. But a lot of moms and people, like sports people and stuff, they come to my store to buy the kratom, and basically I lost half the sales because the kratom is gone, and a lot of people are upset. They're pissed off, and they're just buying it online now. But yeah, you cannot mix it with anything else. I'll give you another example, off topic a little bit. How many deaths in North Dakota from drink and driving? I don't drink, but how many deaths happen in drink and driving in the state of North Dakota, for example? Does anybody know the answer to that question? A lot. But we don't ban alcohol. It's the same thing. Anybody can die from anything. So how about the people that are drinking, driving, and killing people on the street that have their regular victims, regular day like me and you? How many deaths come to North Dakota and they kill people for drinking, driving, and it's all accidents? It's the same exact thing. You guys are not banning alcohol, even though you guys are bringing so much sales, millions and millions of dollars of sales every single year. So my main concern is, guys, kratom does not harm anybody, okay? If I had my customers here, they're obviously at work, they would tell you that they buy this every single day, for them to function every single day. They don't want to be on opiates where they make them lazy, depressed, suicidal, all that stuff. They want to be happy. And I have a lot of customers that buy my kratom every single day. And if you want, I can show you guys sales of my kratom sales. What it benefits them, and it benefits them for the long term, that it's not going to hurt them. Doesn't make you do any crazy stuff. It doesn't make you do anything that's out of the ordinary. It's not like weed. It has nothing to do with weed or alcohol or anything, Anybody else have any questions about this topic, kratom or anything?
Sorry, ma'am, no.
No question. Okay.
It's committee-only questions, sorry. Representative, or Senator Dever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mo, I'm curious, first, if you offer the full range of kratom products,
Yes, sir.
and then if, would kratom by itself be economically viable for you to market without the other products?
Yes, sir, Senator. So when we took it off the shelf on August 7th, I lost half my sales in all my stores in North Dakota. I lost over 200,000 in sales, just those three, just by doing the math on everything. And I can show you guys sales reports and stuff like that of kratom before and after the ban.
What did you do with the excess inventory?
I'm gonna get rid of it. I still have it on the side. I still have it on the side, Senator. I can sell it in Montana too. I have stores in Montana. But nothing has been sold after August 7th. You're welcome. Anybody else has any questions for me?
Further questions? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, members of the working group, my name is Scott Meskey, and I'm here representing the American Kratom Association. I want to introduce today Dr. Jack Henningsfield from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. He has worked extensively over decades with the Food and Drug Administration on regulations on addicting substances and the DEA on the enforcement side of the issue. Doctor?
Scott,
Yes, sir.
could we get your lobby number, please?
The American Kratom Association.
Your lobby number from the state.
Oh, 270. Sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't see that on the signage sheet, but. Jack.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Jack Edward Henningfield. I grew up in the neighboring state of Minnesota. I've been at Johns Hopkins since 1978. During that time, I joined the National Institute on Drug Abuse in 1980, where I was assigned to work with Dr. Surgeon General Koop in 1981, and that got me more interested in science-serving policy. I headed the first section at National Institute on Drug Abuse that worked with DEA and FDA on drug scheduling issues, and I've been doing that ever since. I'm still at Johns Hopkins. I'm at Penny Associates. I consult on science advising to the American Kratom Association and I've been involved in litigation related to kratom. I developed medicines for addiction and pain and other disorders. Quick comment on a couple of the earlier comments. The person talking about pain and unmet pain needs is real and important. And that does drive people to alternatives that aren't always healthy, like heroin on the street. Kratom is one of the safer alternatives that people are turning to. Another comment about the last speaker. If kratom is legal on the market, you can regulate it and you can insist that everything sold legally has labels that you approve, or they can't be sold. If you take them off the market, well then all you've got left on the market is the black market stuff that is unregulated, and that's not healthy. Another comment about DEA's role. I've been working with DEA for decades, and I co-publish with people, former DEA scientists and FDA to this day. And they will tell you that in 2016, they proposed scheduling mitragynine and 7-OH on the basis of advice from FDA, that they withdrew it, not because of political pressure. They assured me if it had morphine-like addiction liability, which is in the law, it would have been scheduled. They said the science didn't support it. We looked more closely, and we were concerned that banning kratom would further fuel the emerging opioid overdose epidemic. And the only time I've ever seen DEA and NIH line up against FDA was back in those years. Now FDA has finally got it right, and FDA recognizes that natural kratom has a place, shouldn't be banned. 7-OH does meet the morphine addiction liability standard in terms of animal studies showing that it functions more like morphine, including respiratory depression. So it meets that standard. Mitragynine does not. I did one of the studies where we pushed the dose using the FDA model of mitragynine literally as high. The goal of the study was push the dose until the animals died, or we could not literally pump more into their bodies. And we were unable to kill animals. 5 different species have been tested: dogs, mice, rats, rabbits, monkeys. Mitragynine has a very benign profile. That doesn't mean it's impossible to overdose, but it's, as FDA now states on its website, FDA is in line with DEA and NIDA, that deaths by mitragynine or kratom alone are rare. So if you regulate, you have the opportunity to make sure that what people buy, like my bottled water here, has standards for impurities, which this is not distilled water, but there are standards, and that's what we need in the marketplace. The science, I'm going to leave the introduction of a book that I published last year, and it was the leading researchers worldwide doing kratom research. And it was literally in press when 7-OH became a national issue, when FDA, DEA, and NIDA, my old institute, lined up and said 7-OH met the standard for morphine addiction-like liability and should be scheduled and banned. And that has not formally happened, could be any week now. But so we added that issue to the book. And I'll leave it because the first chapter is an overview of all of the science in the book, and I think it addresses a lot of the issues. If you're looking for any science, my own library has about 1,200 articles, and I think I can tell you where the science is strong and where it's weak. A couple of other points. Who uses kratom? Well, if you look around the room, the surveys show that kratom users across America look a lot like the people in this room. Natural kratom is not mainly a youth issue. It's mainly a middle-aged issue, 20s to 30s, 50s, 60s, and up. Why are people using A lot of people use it as their daily pick-me-up in place of coffee or in addition to coffee, or for pain. Veterans are an issue that I'm closely involved in, and I advise committees in the U.S. Congress that deal with veterans issues. And General Jack Bergman from Michigan, retired Marine general, will tell you that, remind us that 30 or more veterans commit suicide every day. And he's interested in making sure that kratom is available because that is one of their resources. I'm also advising their committee on the development of psychedelic-based medicines. And that's not, here, go use psychedelics and do microdosing. It's, their committee is how do we do it right? And at Johns Hopkins, there's a lot of research on regulated medicines, not free-for-alls. So veterans are, I think, a good case in point of a very diverse, widely spread population across the United States. And we need to provide their pain needs and their post-traumatic stress needs and their needs for depression where they are, including in small communities, in rural communities, not just in big cities. And they're particularly hit by these issues of under access to pain medicines. For some of them, kratom is their go-to. It works better. Just like for my wife, all the best medicines at Johns Hopkins don't help her acid reflux issues. For her, natural treatments that are not approved by FDA work better. So I'm going to stop there, but there's a lot of science, and the science shows a clear line between natural kratom products and mitragynine and synthetic 7-OH. Any questions on any of the science or whatever?
Questions from the committee? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Chair Heinert. Doctor, so I did what a previous speaker said and typed it into Chat GPT, and it says a little something different than what we heard. The CDC, in their unintentional drug overdose reporting system, says that there were 152 deaths across 27 states. U.S. Food and Drug Administration has publicly linked kratom-containing products to dozens of deaths. And the Tampa Bay Times investigation found over 580 kratom-related overdose deaths in Florida in the past decade. So how do we balance a product that has post-mortem mentions with general public and over-the-counter sales, warning labels? I mean, how do we balance the dangers with what you're saying are some good attributes of it that, maybe Tylenol and ibuprofen don't handle?
Sure, you've got to look deeper. The CDC report, I think, is a 2019 report that's out of those 150 where there were associations, they ended up with 7 that were kratom only. And then in the same article, they referenced a Colorado study that said when they had a group of people that were mitragynine only, they went back and they were able to get samples from all but one of the people. They all had other drugs in their systems. So you've got to dig a little bit deeper. And the FDA most recent warning, and if you go to FDA's current FDA and kratom website, the quote is almost exactly what I'm going to tell you. Deaths associated with kratom are rare and generally involve other substances. So FDA has come a long way since its 2016, 17, 18, frankly, hysteria that was out of line with FDA, or that was out of line with NIH and DEA. DEA has been more consistent. DEA for more than a decade has said kratom is a substance of concern. From my perspective, that's a good thing. They're monitoring it. Their National Forensic Laboratory Information System measures it.
treatment for veterans is sometimes different than treatment for other people. It sounds to me like nobody's defending the synthetics or the alkaloids, but they are the natural leaf. I don't know if that would be what your suggestion would be, but if it is the natural leaf, then should it be allowed to a narrow population that experiences a benefit from it, or just the general population? And maybe another question, how does it compare to marijuana?
How
does it compare to marijuana? And the people in North Dakota voted to allow medical marijuana and have voted more than once to not allow recreational marijuana.
It's, I did some of the earliest studies on marijuana at the National Institute on Drug Abuse, including we made brownies in our laboratory and tested all the different products. There are a lot of differences. Marijuana is very widely used for its euphoriant effects and recreational effects. Now, it's also used for, quote, self-therapy, and a good reading material that probably nerds like me read is the 200-page HHS rationale as to why marijuana should be made a Schedule III substance. But the vast majority of kratom use is by adults, middle-aged, for pain, depression, mood. And what surprised me when I was first looking at it 15 years ago, just about, why was post-traumatic stress and fibromyalgia and things like that popping up? Well, fibro is a pain, insomnia, depression, and kratom provides benefits on all of those dimensions. And by benefits, it doesn't mean it's FDA approved. It's not. It can't be. It's a dietary supplement. But marijuana is in a different basket, and marijuana is most widely used still as a recreational substance. Kratom is the main youth use is not kratom products. It's, I think, increasing these masquerading products that are, I mean, they are marketed in crazy ways. I am going to say one thing. You or somebody said not many people are, nobody's defending 7-OH, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
In my comment, providing a full 8-factor analysis of 7-OH, I agreed with DEA. 7-OH meets the statutory criteria for morphine-like addiction liability. 3 criteria for an opioid. You're born an opioid, botanically, you're chemically similar, or you're morphine-like addiction liability. Mitragynine doesn't meet the criteria, the DEA or the law or whatever. 7-OH does. But in my analysis, I recommended that DEA be flexible in its enforcement approach, because there are people using 7-OH to stay off of opioids. And we said, just the way DEA has been flexible in enforcing marijuana laws for consumers, give those people a break, give them time to transition to other things. The prohibition is very dicey and should not be used unless it really, really has to be used.
Mr. Chairman.
You may continue.
I received a question by email from another legislator. Would it be appropriate for me to ask that?
We're cutting into other people's time, but go ahead.
Okay.
Can I come closer?
And when I read it, you're going to know which legislator. A lot of data points to high kratom levels in deceased individuals. Some data suggests that mitragynine undergoes metabolism by the liver to 7-hydroxymitr, which would make this finding significant. Based upon your background, in your opinion, is one metabolized in humans to the 7?
Yes, it does. And FDA and DEA addressed this issue in their own analyses. And FDA, and I'm going to paraphrase, you can read their Federal Register announcements, or you can read my own, it just went online a couple of days ago, analysis, which is more detailed. In brief, they said, we are aware that there are small, low levels, I believe FDA used the word small, of 7-OH in natural kratom products. They're very small. It's actually not natural in the freshly harvested leaf, but enzymatic interactions can result over time in low levels. Also, in the body, mitragynine is metabolized to 7-OH. That process we have now known since the first key studies in 2016 and 17. That process in itself does not cause serious adverse effects. So in other words, the 7-OH that is appearing naturally in the body as a metabolite of mitragynine is not the problem. And people that have been NMS Laboratories, which has a huge database with some people going up to 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 nanograms per ml of mitragynine, they had to have had pretty high levels of 7-OH without death. So yes, 7-OH is a metabolite, but when the problem, as FDA and DEA and NIDA, my old institute, point out very specifically, the problem is these highly concentrated forms of 7-OH that are ingested. That's just a mountain of difference. That's a whole world of difference from what your body produces as a metabolite.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, can I just ask that your contact information be provided for continuing?
Yes, I'm really
conversation?
easy to find on the internet, and I'll leave these. And if you have any question, or if you're looking for any science, I'll do what I've done with FDA commissioners for years. I'll send you the science, or I'll tell you where the science is on thin ice, like a good Minnesotan, and where we don't know and where it's being researched. But NIDA, my old institute, is putting tens of millions of dollars into kratom research because it's important and because a lot of the metabolites look like they might be useful medicines of the future. But don't hold your breath. That's a long process.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take one more in-house. Come on up, ma'am. And take one more in-house, then we're going to take a couple online. We have several online now that are also have their hands raised. So we're going to do one more in-house, then we're going to do a couple online, then we'll come back to one in-house and stuff like that, back and forth. Go ahead. Thank
Good
you.
morning. Thank you, members of the Kratom Working Group Committee. My name is Chelsea Ridge. I'm here today on behalf of the North Dakota Public Health Association. The North Dakota Public Health Association represents more than 400 members working as public health practitioners, educators, researchers, and partners committed to protecting and improving the health of all North Dakotans. On May 5th, 2026, the North Dakota Public Health Association adopted a resolution urging the prohibition of the sale of kratom and 7-OH in North Dakota. Our position comes from a fundamental public health concern that these products are readily available in North Dakota without adequate safeguards, while evidence of their potential dependence, addiction, and other adverse health outcomes continue to grow. Kratom's derived, from the tree, produces the opiate-like effects in the brain. Our NDPHA resolution highlights the risks associated with dependence, addiction, withdrawal, seizures, liver toxicity, death, and other adverse health outcomes. Of particular concern to public health is the changing kratom marketplace. We're no longer talking about a tree or a botanical leaf. North Dakota consumers encounter powders, capsules, extracts, seltzer beverages, and highly concentrated products. As identified, these products have been sold without comprehensive quality control requirements, labeling standards, or age restrictions for purchase. This creates a significant consumer protection problem. A person walking into a convenience store or tobacco shop may see a number of products sitting along the shelf that are legal. consumer protective products reasonably assume that somebody or some regulatory division has determined that these products are safe, appropriately manufactured, accurately labeled, and are suitable for sale. However, they are not. For NDPHA, this is especially concerning for young people and individuals experiencing substance use disorders. Our resolution specifically recognizes the importance of educating these populations about the risk of kratom use. North Dakota is already working hard to address substance use and addiction throughout our state. Introducing kratom or opiate-like products into an inadequate regulated retail environment works against these efforts. North Dakota needs a clear and consistent statewide approach. For this reason, NDPHA resolution asks the Legislative Assembly to prohibit the manufacture, distribution, sale, and possession of kratom and 7-OH products and classify these products as controlled substances. It also calls for appropriate enforcement mechanisms, public health education, and treatment resources. Public health recognizes an important consequence that must be considered with any policy change. There are North Dakotans who are currently using these products, including individuals already dependent on them. If the legislature moves to uphold Governor Armstrong's prohibition, implementation should include education for consumers and a clear pathway to treatment and support for individuals experiencing dependence and withdrawal. NDPHA respectfully encourages this working group and the Legislative Assembly to take meaningful statewide action to protect North Dakotans from the risks associated with kratom and 7-OH. NDPHA supports prohibition rather than regulation because we believe public health risks outweigh creating or maintaining a commercial marketplace for these products. Thank you for your time, and I will take any questions.
Questions from the committee? Senator Axman.
Thank you, Chair Heiner. Thank you, Ms. Ridge. Just a question on what was the impetus that drove North Dakota Public Health to drafting and releasing the resolution? And then is that something that's voted on by public health officers across the state before it passed?
Yes, so there is a number of substance use prevention coordinators around the state at local public health who have been seeing in the retail space these products popping up and dealing with our schools and law enforcement. We've been seeing and aware of these products and educating on them since probably 2021, right after the pandemic. So as local public health practitioners, we've seen these products in the marketplace for some years now and have provided education on them. Yes, it's been voted on by all the members. It was authored by a public health professional and adopted by our governing council.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now go online to take Laura.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Laura Romney, and I'm actually a 9-year kratom consumer, and I am also the president of International Plant and Herbal Alliance, which is a 501c3 that really focuses on educating communities throughout the United States, various cities and states. Actually, I was even able to educate Ray, North Dakota, which was pretty exciting a couple of weeks ago. But the reason why I'm here is because I really want to echo a lot of the things that were stated, especially about pain control. Let me tell you quickly about my story. I have been a chronic pain patient for 14 years. I have a condition called trigeminal neuralgia, which is a severe facial nerve disease, often nicknamed the suicide disease. I've been through the gamut. Brain surgery, a stimulator implanted in my face, over 30 pharmaceuticals, and I was finally ended up on opioids, prescribed opioids, but a very low dose. I was just desperate because the pain was still so severe. And a trusted friend of mine suggested kratom, and I thought, well, let's give it a shot. And my life changed that day. That was 9 years ago, and I quickly was able to discontinue all opioids and all other medications. Actually, I'm only taking kratom for pain relief. It is not a complete cure. I still have really bad days, and I still deal with pain every day, but it absolutely has saved my life, and I'm not alone. There are a lot of individuals out there just like me that will be absolutely abandoned. Like the first gentleman said, people just cannot access pain medication anymore. It's just a real problem, and it's so difficult for us as pain patients, even those with anxiety and issues of PTSD, sit back and see governments making these critical decisions that impact our lives, and they just don't understand what it really does. A lot of times we're just too sick to show up at a hearing. We don't know about it. And, I really stand up for people like me who really do depend on the natural leaf. I've never taken 7-OH, nor will I ever take 7-OH. I absolutely advocate only for natural leaf kratom. And the push we have is regulation. That is the key. It does not need to be the Wild West. Actually, I absolutely do not want that. I want everything that's in regulation. I want an age gate, 21 and up. Make sure the packaging has, no attractive to children. It's sold behind the counter to adults only. Make sure it's laboratory tested. So that way people can know that what they're taking has not, doesn't have heavy metals and things like that. And, most importantly, make sure those levels of 7-OH are below that 2% line, which is the natural level for 7-OH in the actual natural leaf plant. So again, you may not know a lot about kratom, but it's just a powder that I literally drink in a blender bottle, and I drink it. And the best part about it is it does not make me feel altered. I took so many pharmaceuticals that literally made me where I couldn't even drive because they had such bad effects. And literally, it is like I'm me again taking kratom. So that's why it's been an absolute miracle for me. If you noticed, a few years ago, no one even knew what kratom was. No one even heard about it. A few people did here and there, but where this started coming, all the discussions about the deaths and the poison control and all the problems were right when 7-OH was introduced into the market. There were thousands of people all across the country that were taking kratom natural leaf with really very few problems. And now 7-OH hits the market and it blows up. And so again, I just highly suggest that you really look at the facts, look at the science, look at the poison control data, see that it absolutely corresponds with those 7-OH products. Also, I want to say one last thing about the kratom-related deaths. Those are kratom-related deaths. That means that was a small substance. You could say there's a Benadryl-related death. There is a Tylenol-related death. All those products may show up in the blood, but in most of the cases, they include things like fentanyl, which is, as you know, is a very lethal product. So again, I just want to plead with you to remember my face and remember the faces of the pain patients out there who will be impacted by a natural kratom leaf ban. And I really appreciate your time and attention, and I'm open for any questions.
Questions from the committee? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Chairman Heinert. So I guess my question kind of stems off of some of the things you said about laboratory testing and making sure that levels of 7-OH are below 2%. And how do we as a state put that kind of a regulatory framework in place, and who pays for it?
Yeah, so my suggestion is to do a product registration, because there is a thing called a certificate of analysis that every product that is sold has to have, or they should have. And so that shows that all of the levels have been tested. It shows actually what's in the product so that you understand that that's what is actually in the product is what is on the label. And so if you were to actually, create some system where you had product registration fees and things to try to kind of pay for some of that, the great thing is once the individual who is the vendor or the retailer has proven, hey, this is what I want to sell, you see the COA, and say, yes, this is a safe product. And then you say, great, that checks off all the boxes and that goes on our list, our registration list. So that way all the inspectors can go in and say, oh, check, 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 check. Yep, those products all qualify because they have been analyzed and they are allowed to be in there. So that's, I think, the best way to do it, because then you've shown that, you know, these are tested products and you have reined in those, you know, the Wild West and focused on those certain products that pass.
May I continue?
You may continue.
Thank you. So then your product registration format, would that take care of then also what I would see as the chemists and the plant specialists' ability to do hybrid type plants that will increase the natural chemical formula of the product? And we've seen that in marijuana where they've been able to increase the levels over time with hybriding and other abilities that they do in the greenhouses. Are we going to see a greenhouse effect for this product?
Very good question. And we already see, you know, excuse me, people out there that are trying to create the next thing up, you know, now that 7-OH is going to be banned. So my suggestion is put in your law that you ban all synthetic derivatives. There you go. Because all you're doing is natural leaf, the natural quantities, and if you have any synthetic derivatives, it's gone.
So Mr. Chairman, and I understand that, but I guess I'm wondering what happens when the agronomist is able to increase the percentages in the plant as a natural leaf. Is there,
I see. To alter.
how do we stop the hybriding of the natural leaf? Because that's going to be the next game that's going to happen.
Well, it is just a tree that's grown, and I know it does vary a little bit depending on, you know, where the tree is growing, like the time it's harvesting, and, you know, the various areas. So it can fluctuate a little bit in how much 7-OH and things are in and those different alkaloids. And by the way, I was at a symposium. It was really fascinating to see all the different alkaloids and the different areas where it was grown, how, you know, different alkaloids actually have higher values. So there are some differences, but realize it is a plant, it's a tree that's grown in Indonesia. And I don't foresee like the Indonesians coming up with a hybrid at this point where, you know, they're altering, they're almost, you know, genetically altering those trees. It's a very vibrant industry over there. And again, as long as you consistently keep it with the actual tree and the leaf, then I think you're good. But that's a good question. I mean, who knows what the future is going to bring, but I don't see that. I see more of the chemical lab. I see the lab altered things. So them, you know, again, taking a synthetic derivative and creating a mess. And so again, make sure you have that synthetic derivative and absolutely require those COAs. Then you can get rid of any products that don't pass muster.
Mr. Chairman, and
You may continue.
just one last little question.
Sure.
Just to your knowledge then, is there any kratom plants or trees that you know of that are being grown or harvested out of a greenhouse type setting?
Honestly, the only places in the United States that are grown is typically there's some in Florida and some in Hawaii because it's a very tropical, they're really difficult plants to grow. So no, it's not something, gosh, I certainly would kill it, but there's not very many people that could actually grow that. But, you know, in a sense, you probably could. They're large trees as well. They're very large trees. And so it would be a little bit tricky to be able to grow it, but I'm sure a very skilled greenhouse person may be able to do it, but that's not going to be, you know, definitely not in North Dakota. Let's put it that way.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Next on the online, we're doing two online. Sorry. And then we will come back to in-house. Next online. Misty, are you out there?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We have you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Misty Brown, and I'm a 47-year-old mother of 3 and grandmother of 1. I actually testified last year at the state legislature remotely when my granddaughter was born. She was literally born like 10, 15 minutes before it was my time to testify. I survived active addiction. From 2008 to 2019, I was an active addict to FDA-approved pain pills, benzos, and muscle relaxers. I was going to chronic pain management. I unfortunately was one of those people that slipped into the addiction side of it. And I accidentally found Kratom in June of 2019. I watched that documentary, A Leaf of Faith, and I walked into a smoke shop. The Kratom that I bought was lab tested. It was behind the glass case, and I was carded when I purchased it. I never in a million years thought that I could get out of active addiction. I was not looking for recovery when I found it at all. I was just looking for something to help mitigate my withdrawals that I was going through. And here I am, over 7 years later. I haven't been back to pain management in over 7 years. Kratom helps tremendously with my chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. And there's thousands of people that follow me on social media that have no idea that hearings like these take place, which is why you see me, my little social media corner of happiness right here where I advocate. My grandmother lives in North Dakota. The fact that you guys banned it, and are possibly trying to enforce a ban, I won't be able to take my grandbaby to go see her. I don't know why it's going to make me tear up, but she's my only surviving grandmother. And I just wanted to come on here and say that never in a million years could I ever say that I'm a recovered addict, but for accidentally finding Kratom in June of 2019. I didn't go the Suboxone route. I didn't go the methadone route. I didn't go to AA, NA meetings or anything like that. I was able to recover from my active addiction at home with my kids. And the other thing that I want to say is that, yes, 7-OH and its derivatives are there. We're waiting any day now for the DEA to announce, that's going to be a Schedule I drug. And you're probably already seeing it now because your governor, took off Kratom and 7-OH. There's going to be an influx of people going through withdrawals, especially with this 7-OH and its derivatives ban going into effect. And the people that follow me on social media that got tricked into believing that 7-OH was Kratom, natural Kratom is what has been saving them from those withdrawals. So if you have the power to enforce, to ban and enforce, you have the power to regulate and enforce. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions from the committee? Seeing none, we will then come back in-house for our next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman. My name is Mac Haddo. I'm the Senior Fellow on Public Policy with the American Kratom Association. In 2016, the Food and Drug Administration proposed and recommended the scheduling of natural kratom under the Controlled Substances Act. The DEA, in an unprecedented move, withdrew that recommendation based on the science that was presented, which was evaluated subsequently by the Assistant Secretary for Health, Dr. Brett Giroir, during the first Trump administration. And in that evaluation, he said something that was critically important, and that was that the FDA's evidence and data was embarrassingly poor in its formulation. And that, of course, was something of great interest to a consumer advocacy group like ours, because the critical issue here is, are the kratom products that are available to consumers in the United States, are they properly formulated and safe for human consumption? And if there are products out there that were a basis for the FDA to actually look at scheduling, we needed to root them out. We started looking hard at what was happening within the kratom industry. I can tell you that there are some kratom manufacturers who are not happy with the American Kratom Association because we advocate for strict, strong regulations. And as an example, we found in the industry in 2016 through 2019 that there were some kratom manufacturers who thought that they could play amateur chemists and they took the metrogenine, the principal alkaloid in the kratom plant, and they isolated it, and then they enhanced it using industrial grade solvents. In other words, they created an opioid. They created a dangerous, deadly product, and there was no regulation on it. In 2019, we advocated for now what is called the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. It has been enacted in various forms across the United States in 21 states. Two important product formulation limitations that we saw in 2019 based on the activities of kratom manufacturers in the United States. First was this interest in 7-OH, to take a naturally occurring trace amount of 7-OH and enhancing it. We saw the individual manufacturers talking about doing that. But more importantly, again in 2019, we found that there were kratom manufacturers who were taking that isolating metrogeny using industrial food grade solvents to create dangerous products. And I think when a medical examiner evaluated those deaths that had metrogenine associated with them, they didn't know that they were deliberately enhanced, these isolated and very dangerous products, because they used these powerful solvents. Our recommendation, and it's been enacted in other states, is that you, one, cannot have a level of 7-OH that's greater than 2% of the overall fraction of the plant. That's reflected in the DEA analysis and the FDA analysis in the current recommendation. But secondly, we recommend that you cannot use for the extraction of any metrogenine or kratom extract industrial solvents. You have to use FDA-approved food-grade solvents. Now, what does that mean? When you go to a Starbucks and you buy a Grand Latte coffee, you are buying an extracted coffee product that uses food-grade solvents approved by the FDA. That is the limiting factor that will take away these dangerous products that contributed to deaths that are referenced as kratom deaths, kratom only, and you'll hear grieving parents say that that's what the medical examiner did or told them. And it's true, but it's because they use these highly concentrated industrial grade solvents to create that dangerous product. Our legislation and recommendation to you is that you do not allow that to happen and put this limitation on regulations of natural kratom to ban industrial grade solvents and only use FDA-approved food grade solvents. Labeling is important. You need to make certain that the individual consumers can look at a label and know what's in the product, and we think that's very important. And age restrictions at point of sale are also important. But Laura Romney said something that I thought was very interesting and key to the regulatory structure that we recommend for you. And that is, if you want to protect consumers and you want to make certain that when they come into a store and they are buying the product, that product should be registered in the state of North Dakota, and it should be backed up by an independent certificate of analysis, meaning that the manufacturer has to produce for you a compliance document in the form of a certificate of analysis done by an independent lab that the state can approve. That's working in other states. That relieves the burden of enforcement on many state agencies, reduces the amount of money that you would otherwise have to spend. Then, if there is a complaint that is made about a product that is available in North Dakota on the shelves, you would require the manufacturer, the subject of that complaint, to produce an updated current certificate of analysis at their expense in order to justify continued marketing of that product in the state of North Dakota. That works, and that cleans out the bad actors in the system. And if you put appropriate fines on those people that are producing and selling and distributing into the state of North Dakota, you will find a safer marketplace along the way. You cannot, and this is just the reality of what we see across the board on all these products, ban everything or foresee every eventuality. Can someone get in and tinker with the metrogenine or the other alkaloids in the kratom plant? Likely true. But if you ban all synthetic derivatives, meaning that if you're going to manipulate it, if you play games with it, that's what the FDA is doing, the DEA is doing. And if you look at their recommendations on the follow-on synthetics, you ban all synthetic manipulation of the kratom plant, limiting it only to food-grade solvents and making sure that it's backed by this independent COA. Every grieving parent should be respected. Their stories are tragic. But behind that, and it was referenced by Dr. Henningfield, even the Centers for Disease Control in the report that was referenced earlier had a reference to there are no standardized postmortem analysis done on kratom-associated deaths. That needs to happen to make sure that the medical examiners and coroners are looking for the right things, that they're testing it adequately. And when the CDC found for kratom-only deaths, they were able to evaluate and identify those products that were actually what the FDA, HHS, and DA all say, and NIDA, kratom deaths are rare, but when they do occur, it's because of adulterated products or underlying health conditions, of course. Those adulterated products are responsible for those deaths and safety reports that you've heard. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman. Glad to answer any questions anyone might have.
Questions from the committee? Representative Porter.
Thank you. Chair Heinert. I did not catch your name.
I'm sorry, Mac Haddow, Haddow.
Thank you. Mr. Haddow, in the Kratom Protection Act, are all the things that you listed in your presentation a part of that model act?
They are. With the exception that I didn't mention, but we invite that you impose an excise tax or an increased sales tax on kratom products to fund enforcement actions by the state. We don't believe that the citizens of North Dakota should be burdened with an enforcement budget because of a kratom product. We think that should be the burden of the manufacturers and of the consumers.
Okay. So, and that act has passed in how many states?
21 states in various forms. Some not as comprehensive as we would like because of legislators like to have their view on things that are overlaid into this. No. As a former legislator, I can tell you I understand exactly how that works. But also, there are enforcement issues even where the Kratom Consumer Protection Acts have passed because there isn't sufficient funding, which is why we now advocate for excise tax or increased sales taxes. You could have a registration fee on the manufacturer to cover the initial registration, so the processing administratively, and you could also cover some testing. But we think that if you identify a potential violative product, it should be the burden of that manufacturer to produce an updated COA for you at their expense.
Can you make that act available to the committee?
I will do so this afternoon. I'll circulate it. I think I have a list. Our lobbyist, Scott, will have to make sure he gets it. We'll circulate it, absolutely.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We will go online for the next testimony. Jennifer? Jennifer, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We have you.
Thank you so much. My name is Jennifer Gillis, and although I live in Tennessee, I did feel pressed to speak to you all today. On July 1st of this year, natural kratom became illegal in the state of Tennessee. This negatively impacted not just my life, but many other people's lives. 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis and became a lifelong chronic pain patient. For many years, I relied on prescription medications to manage that chronic pain, until through no fault of my own, that option was taken away. After years of struggling to find relief, I discovered Holy Kratom in 2019, and it gave me a second chance at life. It's given me the chance to do things that my chronic pain held me back from doing. One of the biggest things that gets overlooked in these conversations is the people who are actually benefiting from natural kratom. And when it gets made into an unlawful product, those people are left behind to suffer. And not because of anything that we did, but because the 7-OH industry chose to falsely market these products as kratom products, creating confusion and causing harm in communities across the country. In Tennessee, we were turned into criminals overnight just for trying to have a better quality of life, and that shouldn't happen to anyone, especially when natural kratom has been around for so long. Honestly, most people have no idea what kratom is. So if it was a public health threat, then many of you would have already heard and taken action about it. It's been in the United States for quite a long time. But the only reason it's become a problem is, again, because the 7-OH manufacturers targeting the kratom name. It's been devastating in communities, and it's people like me and so many other people that are having to pay for it. Most people don't pay attention to legislative matters and have no idea this is taking place. So I appreciate your time and let me speak today. I just wanted to be the voice for just the regular moms who can run errands, the grandmas who can play with their grandkids, the everyday people and communities all across North Dakota who aren't here to share their voices today because our voices do matter. I hope you'll consider my story when voting for the people of North Dakota. Make the decision to keep Kratom legal with enforcing sensible regulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Internal, we will go one from the audience.
Enderlin, North Dakota, a little farm about 10 miles northeast of there. I really have no dog in this fight. I mean, I am a medical freedom guy. I am an individual liberty guy, and I talk a lot. I also have a lot of friends who are veterans and to be clear, I had never heard of Kratom before about a week ago. And then one of my veteran friends told me about Armstrong's ban on this. And after that, out of the woodwork, people were contacting me. So I started digging into the numbers and what this whole Kratom thing is. And again, 2 seconds of background on me. I'm an all natural guy. I don't believe in like cannabis, and I've had people try to get me to talk about, the benefits of cannabis and all of. I'm not one of those guys. This is something different. You guys asked, what's the difference between kratom and marijuana? There's a huge difference. I have, again, veteran friends. I have friends who are senators, people that you guys know who use natural leaf kratom. And I support public health by regulating like the synthetic stuff under reasonable regulations. But at the same time, I encourage you not to ban natural leaf kratom because it doesn't need to be banned. I gave Heinert at Axman this data point sheet, and you can reference that, and I will email it there. I'm going to try to stay within time. I'm just going to hit the broad strokes on here, and you can see in the key data points, I have references there. So you can go to every one of those reference points, and you can look this up. So from what I could understand, and I'm not a scientist or medical doctor, but natural leaf kratom is nature's aspirin and it's ibuprofen all in one green package. On one hand, it's comparable to NSAIDs, nature's ibuprofen, or a botanical non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. It suppresses key inflammatory pathways, so it's like Aleve. On the other hand, it's comparable to aspirin. Natural leaf kratom functions as one of nature's aspirins through its traditional profile as a plant-derived analogous, I'm not a doctor, I'm sorry, and a mild anti-inflammatory agent. Now, it was, we discussed here that, can you overdose from it? You can't. It's like an aspirin. It's like Tylenol. If you take too much of it, it'll upset your stomach. As a matter of fact, a couple of the people that I've spoken to said that the first time they took it, that's exactly what happened. You can't overdose from natural plant kratom because if you take too much, your stomach will reject it. And as I've heard some testimony, you can't mix it either. Just like with aspirin or with a Aleve or something like that, if you drink alcohol with it, you're going to have problems. If you use other drugs like fentanyl, you're going to have problems. Those problems are there. We all know about these problems. And again, It's why I don't understand the rush to ban the natural leaf kratom. Now, I understand the 7OH, and we can talk about this. This is all in this document that I pulled together here. 708 in natural leaf kratom is typically under 0.05%. Okay, I'll move to the end. This is my summary. Again, I'll provide it there. But the claim that 23 North Dakota deaths is factually correct per state data. That's between 2019 and mid-2026, but it's misleading as evidence against traditional kratom. Those figures primarily involve potent, synthetic, or concentrated derivatives, not the ordinary botanical leaf. And in most cases, they are polydrug with like opioids, fentanyl, that sort of thing. Sole kratom fatalities in North Dakota are 0. I'm going to say that again. There are 0 natural leaf kratom deaths in the state of North Dakota. That's from 2019 till right now. 0. And even the ones that are attributed, they are the 7OH, and that total of 23 is a small fraction of overall overdose deaths in this state. It's a non-issue.
We need you to wrap it up, sir.
Sure. So, in closing, lumping natural leaf kratom with high potency synthetics overstates the risk and ignores that targeted regulation of concentrates and quality controls would address the real problems more effectively than a blanket ban. I would not to ban natural leaf kratom. And if you need to regulate something, it should be the synthetic products that have flooded the market. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the committee? Seeing none, we will go online to take the next one, and then we will do one more in-house, and then we will be out of time. Simon? Simon, are you there?
There we go. Can you hear me?
We got you. Please keep your comments to something new, please. We're right down to the last few minutes here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Simon Burrell. I've been taking kratom for 2.5-ish years. I suffer from PTSD, anxiety, and depression, all brought on from my time in service. I'm not going to claim I was some war hero, but it sucks. I've been put on a myriad of drugs, specifically antipsychotics, which for the longest time my doctors refused to admit I had reactions to. And once I got off of that, I was put on the medical marijuana program, which is fine, except I have a wife and 2 kids. And I need to be able to be a functioning member of society, and I can't do that if I'm stoned. When I take kratom, I take it 3 times a day alongside the pills that I've been prescribed with significant oversight from my doctor. And as this was being banned, I was actually getting off of clonazepam or Klonopin, benzodiazepine, and using it as a means of managing my withdrawals. As soon as the ban was enacted and I had to get rid of what I had, within 2 to 3 days, I had to get back on the same dose of pills because I physically could not take, and this isn't like, this is a prescribed dose of benzodiazepines. My wife also, this is another story here, is a couple of years ago, we had a miscarriage, and it happened to be on the 1st of January. So when she went in, they weren't able to give her hydrocodone pills, and she was in excruciating pain. I gave her the barest minimum dose of natural leaf kratom, and it helped her for the rest of the 2 days that she couldn't get her hydrocodone. I have tried the 7OH products completely without knowing that that's what they were. But I can say for a fact that yes, those could definitely be extremely addicting. But there are those of us out there, and I was weeks away from being off of a benzodiazepine, and now I don't have the option of even, in my opinion, getting off of that medication. And when I'm on my benzodiazepines, I can't control when I sleep. So I act like a narcoleptic. When I'm on kratom, I can actually choose when and where I want to sleep. When I'm on my benzodiazepines, I could be sitting here talking to you and pass out within a matter of seconds, thinking that I'm still awake. Without kratom, my life would have been a huge mess, and I would have lost my marriage and my children. And I sincerely urge you all to realize that there are people who use this who aren't playing around with it. And like the last man said, and I know this personally because trying to figure out a dose for yourself is very difficult on some substance like that. If you take too much of it, you're going to be puking your guts out for the rest of the day. So, again, can you overdose on it? Probably. But, again, regulations on things like 7OH products and the kratom that I use, I would buy from the internet. And, again, these were third-party tested products that I knew I could trust to use. And I firmly push, or I would firmly push for, like everyone's been saying, testing and things like that. But kratom saved my marriage. And without it, I'm not sure what's going to happen. But it scares me. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator-
I would just ask, given the special consideration for veterans, and I assume that you're receiving care through the VA?
Some care through the VA.
Okay.
Working on changing a discharge due to a violent outburst of another member of my platoon, which ended in an altercation. But I am receiving minute amounts of benefits, as you said, for PTSD, anxiety, tinnitus, and migraines.
So the purpose of my question is simply, Simon, does the VA support your use of kratom?
I have just recently started receiving benefits from, well, I've had them for a while, I just hadn't used them. But the therapists that I have worked with and the people that I've spoke with the VA have been very receptive of the use of something other than a pharmaceutical, something like kratom. So to answer your question, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they most definitely do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We are coming back in-house now for our last presenter because we are out of time. I ask you to only speak to new information or identify who you're from and then what your thoughts,
Yes, thank you. Chairman Heiner, Chairman Axman, members of the Kratom Working Group. My name is Alex Kelsch. I represent the Global Kratom Coalition, and I'm here to introduce Allison Smith, who will speak on these topics. My lobbyist number, if you need that, is 971. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, you have about 2 minutes because we have to be back at 12:30.
I'll keep it brief. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As Alex said, I am here with the Global Kratom Coalition. I want to start by affirming that the governor and the attorney general are right to be concerned. The proliferation of concentrated synthetic 7-OH products is a very clear danger to the residents and public safety of North Dakota. This has obviously been established throughout the previous conversations that have been stated, so I'll try and skip through most of this. But we were here back in 2025 advocating and asking for education and regulation that was implemented. And again, we advocate for a distinction between these two products. It is in the interest of these 7-OH manufacturers to confuse and conflate both regulators and consumers. And nothing is more evident of this than during the AG's own press conference when he displayed 3 separate products and said, this is kratom, it's addictive, it's going to ruin your life. But those were concentrated 7-OH products. He did not display a single traditional kratom product. Your own attorney general was a victim of these predatory marketing practices. Fortunately, the DEA on July 6th of this year, announced its intent to classify synthetic 7-OH and other synthetic derivatives to avoid this whack-a-mole game that people like to play with manufacturing these substances. And it follows the distinction that the DEA and the HHS has made. Why does this matter? Because natural kratom has been consumed safely for centuries throughout Southeast Asia and has been around since the 1970s in the United States. The leaf didn't suddenly change in 2026. The market did. And these fraudulent products have been proliferating since 2023. They are 100 to 1,000 times more potent. They lack the fiber, they lack the antioxidants, and the broad alkaloid profile that is contained in natural kratom leaf. I'll finish up soon. When we look at the poison center data, we actually see that change. In 2021, there was 1 call. In 2022, there was 1 call. In 2023, there was 5. In 2024, there was 7. And then in 2025, there were 22. And this spike deserves attention. And it raises the important question of what changed. So natural kratom has been available for decades. I think it's pretty reasonable to believe that this dramatic growth came from the proliferation of the 7-OH market. And this isn't just in North Dakota. This is nationwide. National poison center calls remained roughly to 1,100, 1,500 calls per year from 2018 to 2024. And then in 2025, jumps to 3,400. And that's as 7-OH products reach scale. I'm not dismissing those poison control calls, but it means we need to address what changed. And we need to keep the numbers in perspective. During the same period as the 36 calls that happened in North Dakota relating to kratom, cosmetics and personal care products received 1,601 calls. The state's leading category exposures generated 12,833 calls. Products that identify as kratom represent roughly 0.3% of that combined volume. I'm not here to tell you that natural kratom is risk-free. No product is. You can hurt yourself on water. I can hurt myself on the Celsius that I'm drinking. But we need to express caution and look at the data. And the same goes for fatalities when mitragynine is present. The presence of it in a toxicology report does not equate to causation. But as we discussed that earlier. So my request is very straightforward. Target concentrated synthetic 7-OH aggressively. Keep it out of the hands of North Dakotans and follow the lead of the federal government and the numerous NIDA and FDA research studies that have been conducted. I'll yield back my time and answer any questions, if any.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it short. We will break then for lunch, and we will return at 12:30 for our afternoon sessions. I am sorry for those of you who wanted to speak, but you may still turn in any written testimony you wish to do so.
Okay, so now I believe they're going to go for break. Would they say 30 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, we can sit here and chit chat if you want.
Yeah.
I am sorry that the screen is glitchy.
Yeah.
We cannot fix that. I don't know what.
It's been dumb this whole time. Hold on.
I got it. Yeah, there we go. You did amazing, Jen.
Thank you. I was a little nervous because my phone was messing up and I was doing too many things at one time.
Yeah, I don't know.
You did amazing also, though, as usual.
Every time I speak, I don't remember what I say. So I usually will go back. You know, you learn from yourself. You go back and rewatch your testimony if you can. So
That's why I said super rough rider room. What the hell?
I know.
Yeah, they're not going to vote today.
No, this is just them collecting information type stuff. The legislation's hearings, I believe, is supposed to be like somewhere like September 2nd or something like that. So those of you, you know, if there's a remote link at that time, you know, we didn't know about this remote link till yesterday.
Yeah. It didn't even dawn on me till this morning.
It took me forever. Like I was like, I kept trying to find, is there a remote link? Where can we get one? What's going on? And then lo and behold, you know, someone from the GKC got it for us.
I didn't realize that it was going to be like a limited thing either, like the time and stuff. So
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Rebecca.
they got AOL. They got AOL in North Dakota.
Yeah, it started getting glitchy on my side. It usually happens like this when you're watching it through the website links instead of YouTube or something like that. It's usually always happens like this.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And then that Simon guy, man. If you guys can't see, but he's knitting. He's actually crocheting something on screen. And I think it's just so damn cute.
I've always wanted to learn how to do that. I don't have I can't concentrate long enough to figure out how to learn something new. I don't know. It doesn't look like there is, but I mean, the public comment part wasn't on the agenda, I don't think.
Let me go look.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Jeff.
And Kathleen.
Yeah. Are you looking up?
Yeah, I'm getting
Trying to get caught up on the comments. Where'd I go?
Oh, Charlene said she saw them.
Say what?
She saw the knitting.
Oh, did you? It's so cute.
Yeah. Extreme,
Okay.
yeah.
So after the break, they're supposed to come back in like 30 minutes. So I don't know if they're going to go back to resuming testimony or not. But this hearing is going to last another couple more hours.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be presentations by a whole bunch of people. So that's going to get interesting. So that's when you can light the chat. That's when you can light the chat on fire.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and you know what, Mike? She was not initially dead set on a ban.
Nope.
Somewhere along the way, she flipped, you know, and just like I say this all the time, it's like you could tell when they're being, I don't know, maybe being coached by somebody, but I don't know.
Possibly. Who knows?
Yeah, this is gonna. You know what? I need to go to the bathroom. Do you want to put on music while we go to the bathroom or something?
Yeah. We'll put on the. I made this little thing. Hold on.
It's so cute too.
So that if people come and we're not on screen. Okay, we're gonna put on some music, bathroom break, and we'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back.
This music's pretty chill.
Oh my God, yes, it is.
I just had to get a snack also. Look at them little dudes.
I was just re-listening to my testimony. Yeah. I feel like there was something else that I was going to try to say. Well, I always try to leave it off with, kratom is an exit from addictions, and 7-OH and its derivatives are an entrance into one.
Yep.
But I think they already know, especially when we watched their last Friday's working group.
Yeah. But I mean, at least they're putting the work into it.
Yeah, this is what your state should have done.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Tennessee should have at least pretended like they gave her crap.
I am still so upset with how Tennessee State Legislature did their stuff.
Yeah. Downright dirty.
It was definitely that, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back type of crap that went down.
It's there was 3 factors, I feel like, that really just made it happen. All the planets aligned, but that was the main one.
Yeah. Like, you help me get this bill through, I'll help you get a bill through, buddies.
Yup. Oh, dude, super. Yeah, one thing worth mentioning is how horrible the taste is. I think so.
Oh.
There's been somebody that said it tasted like grass or something in one of the testimonies. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, they did, huh? Lick the bottom of a lawnmower.
What's up?
What's up? Chris?
Medicinal plant education?
Yeah, that's Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I said in my earlier comment, you don't see 7-OHers, and I don't know how many times we got to say that with all the locality hearings that we attend. You don't see 7-OHers in there trying to defend their product. Yeah, like I said in my other comment, cosplaying, being a kratom advocate is just straight up embarrassing.
Yeah.
Stop it.
It's gross.
Stop it.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Jeff?
Dried grass with some dog poop.
Are we talking about the white powdered dog poop?
Dude, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard it doesn't get white anymore because they changed the ingredients of the dog food.
I heard that too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I thought they were starting, and I was like, why do they have music?
Dr. Jack did amazing. Mac came and brought the sermon today.
Yeah, he did.
And people don't realize that Dr. Jack is hard of hearing. I guess he wears old school hearing aids or something like that. He doesn't want to upgrade them. I don't know, something like that. But he is hard of hearing.
That one dude, that legislator dude, asked a question. He goes, "Oh, I do too."
Hey, Charlene. We're just waiting for them to come back from their recess. Because there's still a couple more hours to go. Allison did amazing.
Yeah.
That one random guy? But I don't even... That was... What? I'm going to have to go rewatch his. But he only learned about it a couple weeks ago, and then he did his research on it.
I was trying to find, I can't remember what this comment said, man. I was going to be like, oh yeah, there was a comment earlier. I don't remember what it said now. So, go figure.
I know, it's probably one of those where you wished you pinned it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll probably think of it later. Yeah, it's crazy how they'll say, "Oh, well, I think that the 708ers just like to bitch and moan. Oh, I know what it was. Super said he's worried it might not get scheduled. It definitely will. It's just in time.
Yeah. 7OH and its derivatives, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go find what Dr. Jack mentioned about how he published something a couple days ago. I want to find out what it was.
Yeah, that whole thing with him talking about trying to hybrid the leaves or the plants and stuff, and it's like, dude, that's not how that works. Like,
No.
I get what he was saying, but I mean, Laura answered him perfect.
She did.
But it's like, if they was gonna do that, they would have done that centuries ago, brother.
Like trying to crossbreed. You can't crossbreed kratom. I mean, you crossbreed, marijuana plants. And I still think about this. Like how when Spice and K2 was popular and all that stuff, and it's like, I wish I could talk to a cannabis advocate that was around during that time and just question them, like, how far back did that set your trying to, legislate cannabis?
Because I don't, I remember like the whole K2 Spice thing, but I don't know exactly what happened.
Yeah. Because that's what 7OH has done to us. It set us back.
Oh, yeah.
And then it set us back years.
Yeah.
And all the progress that the kratom advocates, did prior to us coming on scene, it's wiped away.
Yep.
I've always said thank you for those that kept kratom legal so that I could find it in 2019. But I'm trying to keep it legal so someone else can accidentally find it. But 7OH came in and bum rushed it, and set us back so many years.
It's sad. It's really sad.
Tennessee, Louisiana, Kansas, Connecticut, they wouldn't have banned, I'm sure that they wouldn't have banned kratom. Well, Tennessee might be a different story because, like I said, that was just a weird...
Well, and who knows? I mean, you think about it, because I thought about this, obviously, many nights when I couldn't sleep, but it's like, how many people went to 7-0 in Tennessee?
Yeah.
And just quit advocating? It's like, it's like the sucker of all things, So it's like, how many people, because I know a lot of people, even from 2016, that helped save the leaf have went to the 7OH side.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it definitely, that's one of the three factors was, 7OH being around in Tennessee and not being regulated, not being enforced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too, Mike. I think it might take some time, but.
That's what I'm saying. It set us back years because I have no doubt that we probably would have been up to like 25 KCPA states now. We would have had half the country.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we were on good track for the federal KCPA until 7OH came into play.
Yeah, we were.
And it's like, boop, all that's gone.
And it's like,
it blows my mind.
It's like I keep biting my tongue.
I know.
You know what I want to talk about, but it's like
all in good time, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, people keep on saying, well, Mac's not used to be anti-prohibition, but at some point you have to, I mean, there has to be some type of safety standards, first of all. That, you can't just have anything out there, especially, honestly, I think they would have gone a lot longer if they would have just kept kratom out of it.
Oh, really, Jeff? I used to equate 7-OH being the new spice, you know, K2. But that right there was actually like fully synthetic. But either way, it still stole cannabis's namesake. You know, just like 7-OH has stole kratom's namesake. Just like freaking MGM 15 is stealing Cat's Claw namesake.
Yep. Yep. I mean, yeah, they're going to keep on coming out with different stuff. As long as they don't throw kratom under the bus, I don't give a shit.
Same.
And I mean, I'm sorry. Like, my thing is too. It's like, I think so. I think so, Kathleen.
Yep, Kathleen.
For sure.
Yep.
I believe so. It's like, and you know, my thing is too, it's like when you believe in something and you truly are advocating for it, you know, you stand up for it. You don't just throw it under the bus or only stand up when it's convenient or when it doesn't hurt other people's feelings. And I'm sorry, I'll stand up for kratom every day.
Yep, kratom and kratom only. I don't care how many haters I've attracted, you know, from me being vocal about being against 7-OH. I'm not against the people. And I'm tired of people putting that shit in my fucking mouth.
Ain't nobody said nothing about the people. I think they might be coming back. Hold on. Oh.
Presentation from Miss Charlene.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
From the State Crime Lab.
Yeah, the people that take a shit on Mac can eat shit.
Totally.
And that includes supposed kratom advocates who are now 7-OH sympathizers. Sorry, but we don't advocate for likes and views over here.
Sure don't.
We ain't trying to streamline a paycheck.
And if people don't like it, they can move on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Oh, here comes the boards. Comes the visuals. Yeah, Mike.
Good afternoon, working group. My name is Charlene Rittenbach, and I'm a senior forensic scientist with the North Dakota Office of Attorney General, Crime Laboratory Division. I'm the technical leader for the forensic chemistry unit that includes the analysis of seized drugs and materials. I've been analyzing seized drugs for over 20 years and remember becoming familiar with kratom early in my career. It was a substance we were trained on and only encountered occasionally, but it is not what it is today. The kratom industry has rapidly changed and grown in the last several years. Kratom is a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia where recreational uses date back centuries, with consumption by laborers and farmers looking to combat fatigue, increase productivity, and alleviate pain. When the leaves are consumed, it produces stimulant effects in low doses and sedative effects in high doses. Among the numerous alkaloids identified in the plant, the major alkaloid of metrogenine, here, and the minor alkaloid of 7-hydroxymetrogenine, also known as 7-OH or 7-hydroxy, are primarily responsible for the plant's psychoactive effects. In kratom's botanical form, meaning the leaf, 7-OH is stated to make up less than 2% of the total alkaloid content and occurs in trace amounts. However, 7-OH can be synthesized from metrogenine through a chemical reaction, and it also exists as an active metabolite of metrogenine. 7-OH is reportedly approximately 10 times more potent than metrogenine. Recently in the United States has seen a proliferation of 7-OH products. Evidence suggests that commercially available products, including extracts and synthetic formulations, contain a significantly higher concentration of 7-OH than in what is found in botanical kratom. These products are commonly sold on the internet and in retail outlets such as gas stations and smoke shops, in various forms including powders, tablets, capsules, and gummies. The safety profile of these concentrated products, whether 7-OH or metrogenine, remains unknown because no chemical clinical trials have been conducted to establish safe consumption limits or standardized dosing. Recently, an emergence of products containing 7-OH, which are often characterized by ambiguous dosages and misleading marketing, frequently are being labeled as natural kratom extracts. While sellers promote these products for their euphoric and opioid-like effects, evidence demonstrates that they may also contain other opioid alkaloids, such as metrogenine, pseudol, and doxil. For this presentation, I'm just going to start referring to metrogenine, pseudol, and doxil as pseudol and doxil, just to not be confused with metrogenine itself. So pseudol and doxil is reportedly much more potent than 7-OH itself. Products containing pseudol and doxil is something that the crime lab has observed firsthand through the analysis of 7-OH products, as most were labeled to contain 7-OH, but also contained pseudol and doxil as well as metrogenine itself, and both were not listed on the label. Besides 7-OH products, there are also a variety of infused metrogenine products available that concentrate and elevate the primary active alkaloid of metrogenine into alternative consumer formats that can include liquid extracts, tinctures, gummies, soft gels, capsules, enhanced powders, and infused beverages. The concentration of metrogenine in the infused or enhanced products can vary widely. Although often labeled as natural kratom, these products usually are more concentrated than botanical kratom, have greater effects, and have the possibility to be adulterated with other substances. Since these products have been legal, submissions to the crime laboratory involving kratom or kratom products have been minimal since they were not a controlled substance. Since 2023, there have been 6 cases where metrogenine was identified. In looking into each of those cases, 3 out of the 6 indicated some sort of overdose or suspicious death. In 2024, there was a case that was listed as a suspicious death where approximately 270 grams of ground botanical kratom and metrogenine was identified. In 2025, there was a case that was labeled as an overdose poisoning that contained tablets, and those tablets also contained 7-OH and the pseudol and doxil as well as metrogenine. And in 2026, there was one case listed as an overdose where kratom capsules such as this were submitted and metrogenine was identified. During the governor's recent press conference, Attorney General Wrigley announced that he went into a smoke shop and purchased products firsthand. The crime lab analyzed these and determined that all 3 products purchased were inaccurately labeled as to what the contents were present in each product. Each product contained 7-OH, as it was labeled, but it also contained metrogenine and the more potent derivative of pseudol and doxil. This was consistent with various other products that the crime lab has qualitatively analyzed and highlights the concern of accurate labeling. These combinations, coupled with a lack of regulatory oversight, pose significant safety risks to consumers by exposing them to high doses of opioids. These products sold as unregulatory dietary supplements pose significant health risks as essential information regarding their purity, identity, and long-term safety remain unknown. There are currently no labeling requirements regarding these products. Some of the common warning language on the products themselves that we've encountered for both kratom and 7-OH products are that they're not intended for daily use, to not take this product every day, do not exceed the recommended servings. Kratom and its derivatives may be habit-forming. Kratom may be addictive. Do not use while pregnant or nursing. Do not use with alcohol or prescription medicine, and consult with a healthcare professional prior to use. The FDA has warned people not to take kratom because of safety concerns and the risk of addiction. The sale of kratom is not approved by the FDA, meaning that the FDA has not determined kratom to be safe or effective, has not inspected products to make sure that they contain the ingredients that they're supposed to, has not determined the concentration of the active ingredients is accurate, and has not determined if the product is contaminated. Since kratom is not approved by the FDA or regulated in any way, different products can differ in strength and often have unknown contaminants. Companies selling kratom aren't required to follow safe manufacturing regulations, and in 2018, there was an outbreak caused by Salmonella bacteria in kratom that made people sick in 41 states. Unregulated manufacturing can create risks for heavy metals and bacteria contamination. There are no prescription or overdose or over-the-counter drug products containing kratom or its known alkaloids that are legally on the market in the United States. According to the FDA, kratom is not lawfully marketed as a dietary supplement and cannot be lawfully added to conventional foods. Prior to the surge of 7-OH products and other kratom derivatives, 10 years ago, in August of 2016, the DEA announced its intent to temporarily place metrogene, the main alkaloid in kratom, and 7-OH into schedule to avoid imminent hazard to public safety. In making this determination on kratom, the DEA stated then that available information indicates that these opioid substances, constituents of the plant kratom, have a high potential for abuse, currently no accepted medical use in treatment in the United States, and lack an accepted safety for use under medical supervision. An additional concern that was noted by the DEA was the wide variability of the concentration of the active components in available kratom products, leading to unpredictable effects when similar amounts of different products are consumed. Public backlash to the DEA's proposed ban quickly developed, and in October of 2016, the DEA announced that it would withdraw its intent to temporarily schedule metrogene and 7-OH because of numerous comments from the public that needed to be considered. Additional timeline details of kratom include, in 2021, the domestic market evolved away from the bitter powders to highly concentrated liquid shots and carbonated beverages. In 2023, poison center calls spiked as products continued to diversify. In 2025, the market inventory dramatically shifted toward the 7-OH products. While 7-OH is only a trace alkaloid in natural leaves, companies began chemically synthesizing and infusing it into ultra-potent tablets and shots. And recently, in July of 2026, the DEA announced its intent to temporarily place 7-OH above a specified threshold and 3 synthetic derivatives, pseudoindoxil, MGM-15, and MGM-16, into Schedule 1. The North Dakota Board of Pharmacy has recently issued an emergency rule to follow suit with the DEA's proposed intent to place 7-OH over a defined threshold and other synthetic derivatives as Schedule 1 substances. I want to briefly highlight why in both the DEA's and the North Dakota Board of Pharmacy's proposed emergency rule that 7-hydroxy is defined over a specified threshold. Remember that in botanical kratom, it can contain trace levels of 7-OH. This creates challenges and complexities in listing 7-OH specifically in the schedule. Thus, the DEA has recommended scheduling above a specified threshold of 0.05%. Or 1 milligram in botanical material or alternative products. I want to thank you for your time today and apologize for the vast amount of information, as this is a complex topic. But I hope some of this information is helpful to this working group to assist in decisions making moving forward, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions from the committee? I do have one. Right at the end here, you talk about a DEA recommended schedule above a 0.05. We've been hearing 2% for the natural, what I call the natural. Is there a differentiation between those two numbers, or is that about the same number? The way it just depends on how you write it.
Chairman Heiner, that's a great point to pick up on. So the Kratom Protection Act, from my knowledge, has kind of represented put in their 2% alkaloid content below. There's some literature that's saying that it's below 2%. So that's kind of the line in the sand. I think it's actually much lower than 2% if you were to quantify actual kratom material. As stated before, it kind of, in fresh kratom, it is very minimal, but over time it can kind of break down into that 7-OH. So I think the DEA's determination of 0.05 is definitely scientific backed, and that's where they felt the 2% was probably higher than needed.
Senator Dever.
Mr. Chairman, I'm curious if the federal action addresses the availability from the internet. And if not, what is the state's ability to enforce? Can you speak up? You heard me, didn't you? My question was federal action. Does that effectively deal with the availability of the product on the internet? Or what is the state's ability to enforce?
Senator Dever and Representative or Co-Chair Heinert, that is outside of my wheelhouse. The internet is, very hard to manage. Federally, that rule has not been enacted yet. It is just a proposed intent at this point.
So do you know if internet purchases come through American sites or overseas or international?
Senator Dever, I would imagine internet purchases can come from all over.
Okay.
Additional questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming today. Next, we have a presentation from Dr. Danielle Thurtle from Sanford Health.
Right. I did bring copies. All right. Co-chairs, Axman and Heinert, and members of, I guess it's technically a working group. Thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Danielle Thurtle. I am board certified in both general pediatrics and pediatric hospital medicine. I practice at Sanford Hospital here in Bismarck. I want to just say I have little formal training in kratom. It was not mentioned in my residency when I completed that in 2012, sorry. So much of my testimony is just from my own personal experience caring for the infants and children of Western North Dakota. And in discussion with pediatric and neonatal experts across the country, I am the medical director of our maternal infant dyads exposed to opioid use program here in Bismarck. So I speak today about kratom and the specific growing risk it poses to children, adolescents, and the newborns I care for. Kratom is an opioid-acting drug, not a benign herbal supplement. Because it is sold as a dietary supplement in gas stations, vape shops, and online, families and teenagers often perceive it as natural and safe. It is not. Kratom has been linked to physical and psychological dependence, opioid-type withdrawals, liver toxicity, seizures, and death, with risk compounded when it is combined with other substances. Poison Center data shows a steep and escalating harm trend. According to the CDC analysis of reports of ingestion, have increased over 1,200% from 2015 to 2025. Exposures involving multiple substances were associated with hospitalization 44 to 56% of cases, and those with serious or life-threatening outcomes in roughly 2/3 of those cases. These accounted for the large majority of kratom-associated deaths as well. These are precisely the polysubstance patterns we see common to adolescents, particularly in easily obtainable substances. Adolescents are already using kratom both nationally and here in North Dakota.
In the first national analysis of adolescent use in 2019, lifetime kratom use among U.S. adolescents was 0.44%, and past year use was 0.27%. Kratom use was significantly associated with cigarette and cannabis use, meaning it clusters with other easily accessible substances used in this age group. Because the adolescent brain is still developing, early exposure is a particular concern. There is preclinical data that show that kratom exposure during adolescence produces long-lasting cognitive and memory deficits that persist into adulthood. Just within my personal experience as a pediatric hospitalist here in Bismarck, we have cared for adolescents needing hospitalization due to the severity of withdrawal symptoms when trying to stop kratom use. Kratom also causes a neonatal abstinence syndrome in infants exposed during pregnancy, and in my personal experience, this withdrawal is severe and extreme compared to prescribed opioids, including methadone and buprenorphine. When a pregnant woman uses kratom regularly, her newborn can be physically dependent and go into opioid-type withdrawal after birth. This includes extreme irritability and discomfort, dehydration from diarrhea and vomiting, and even seizures. I have personally cared for a case here in Bismarck where a mother was using exclusively herbal teas, and the infant suffered severe withdrawals requiring extra medications and a prolonged ICU stay. There are also other published case reports in the literature of severe withdrawal from tea use as well. A larger systemic review of prenatal kratom exposure found that in every analyzed case, both mother and infant experience withdrawal, and the infants require prolonged hospitalizations, including treatment with medications, which is unusual compared to the withdrawal we usually see from prescribed opioids. So in summary, in my experience, the withdrawal we've seen from kratom in newborns, including mothers using tea, more closely resembles that from the withdrawal from heroin or street fentanyl than prescribed medications. While I understand that there is little large-scale data on the subject of kratom, I do not want you to confuse that with safety. There are no pediatric safety data and no established safe use for adults or adolescents. There is early data that kratom irreversibly negatively impacts brain development. Children can access these products easily, adolescents are using them alongside other drugs, and newborns are experiencing withdrawal unlike anything experienced by over-the-counter products of any kind. Thank you, and I am very glad to answer questions from the committee.
Questions from the committee? Senator Dever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doctor, prenatal use of alcohol and tobacco is well known to be risky. Is the same the case with kratom? Are people aware of the risk that they're?
That's Senator Dever. Thank you very much for the question. In my experience, it was just with one mother to date. She was not aware that there were any risks to her infant. I have since contacted like our local MFM physicians and said that I would like these parents referred to me for prenatal counseling, which I do on other mothers who take opioids, so I can counsel on that. Alcohol absolutely has known effects. They can be long-lasting and damaging. Tobacco does to an extent, but neither of those even have the very extreme life-threatening withdrawal symptoms in the first few days of life that I've seen with kratom.
And people aren't aware of that?
No.
Senator Axman.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thurtle. My question kind of is very similar to Senator Devers. Is it now part of that prenatal protocol when mothers are in their appointments leading up to birth to discuss with the local healthcare providers?
It's still incredibly new. Again, both of these cases that I referenced were within the last 12 months. But I've been in contact with Dr. Nielsen, our maternal fetal medicine specialist, and asked if he hears of these cases. We've talked about including referral to maternal and fetal medicine if a mother is using kratom as standard protocol as well. But again, this is part of the problem of kratom is that we don't have recommendations from our medical societies, what kind of use poses risk, what wouldn't pose risk. It's impossible for us to tell. So it's hard for us to counsel parents or even provide guidance on when they should see us.
You may continue.
Thank you. Is it something that now OBs are asking during the appointments if there is kratom use? Is that something they're trying to ask, I guess, before birth?
I would defer to the OBs. It's really difficult, especially because if the patients don't perceive it. We do a standard screening tool for any kind of substance use. However, we find often patients don't tell us about, like natural substances. They don't consider that as part of that screening tool.
See no additional questions. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you taking your time coming up. Our next presentation is Ms. Cassandra Alterner from Coal Country Community Health Center. She is online. Ms. Alterner, you should be able to unmute yourself. We are a few minutes early, but that's fine. We can't seem to get Ms. Alterner to respond. We are a little early, so might have stepped away from her desk. Is Miss Jackie Gervis in the room? You want to go ahead and go then? Sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm not
Sorry
going
for
to, yeah.
butchering your last name. I'm sure I
Gervais,
did.
yeah. Yep. I'm Jackie Gervais. I'm a board certified psychiatric mental health and addiction certified nurse practitioner. I'm also the CEO and founder of The Ridge, which is a treatment center in Fargo. And I treat mostly opioid dependence and a variety of addictive disorders. At The Ridge, we run a walk-in clinic, which is open Monday through Thursday, and we treat a variety of disorders. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I created a whole testimony, which I was going to hand out to you. But after sitting through this morning, I kind of just rewrote everything, and I'd prefer to speak off the cuff so it's not so redundant and maybe more helpful. I think my biggest concern from this morning was referring to kind of the synthetic kratom as kind of bad kratom, and natural as it seemed more like good kratom, bad kratom. And what concerns me is that people that are going into shops purchasing these products, they're just purchasing kratom, and they're not really, nobody knows the difference other than people who are highly educated. And so to me, it's an issue of education. I've been treating opioid addiction for a long time, and I could count on one hand the number of people who, because when they show up in my office, they're in trouble. And I could count on one hand the number of people who have come in my office who went into a store, bought kratom knowing exactly what it was, knowingly knew they were going to potentially become addicted to it. That's a really small demographic. I think early on in the opioid crisis, when it was much more difficult to get access to medication-assisted treatment, that was a thing, but that's greatly been expanded. And I think what's happened now is it's a lot of people are going in, like we've talked about, nobody really knows. It's a product that is completely unregulated by the federal government, and they're developing an opioid addiction, and we have to talk about it like that. I think this morning there were a lot of references, like it's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. It's just like aspirin. It's just like ibuprofen. It's those products. It's just like an opioid, and opioid epidemic, and that's the biggest problem. We're talking about overdoses, and that's also a problem. But the biggest problem is that we're feeding addiction, and we're feeding addiction in people who are really naive to opioids and have no idea what it is. And when they come into my office, they don't know what opioid withdrawal is. And a lot of times, it's so complicated to get them off of kratom. And practitioners, even myself and the staff that work for me, there's not a lot of evidence to educate us on how to manage that withdrawal. And so I'm in the largest metropolitan area in North Dakota. So I also think about these rural areas and how is that being managed for people that need to help their patients get off of kratom. And so that's really my biggest concern right now, is kind of separating the two, because it all acts in the brain the same way. And while there are meaningful differences between the two, they all are harmful in their own way as far as developing addiction and dependence. And so we have to treat them both with the magnitude that they need. My other concern is making unsubstantiated medical claims that we can use this product to treat mood, energy, PTSD, depression, anxiety. There's no doubt that people get benefit from it for that, but it's not evidence-based. There's no it's not approved for any of those things. And so you can take a lot of drugs to improve your mood. You can take a lot of drugs to help with pain. You can take a lot of drugs to help with sleep. That's called self-medicating. It's not approved for that. So my concern is that people are going into a gas station, a vape shop, and it could be a 19-year-old behind the counter going, this might help with your anxiety. This might help with your sleep. That is a layperson offering medical advice to somebody that has no business doing that. And so I think that's another thing that wasn't addressed this morning, is our residents are getting unsubstantiated medical claims, and they're getting addicted to a substance that it's not approved for. And so those two things, where I'm stuck really is what to do next. I think we all collectively agree with 7OH. With the leaf kratom, I think deep down, I support a total ban, and I just want to say thank you for giving your testimony on your son this morning, because that was really beautiful. But I also understand that there are people here that are just addicted to kratom, and what do we do with them? And so I think when you play it out, you've got a population that's already dependent on this product, and when you have that, and then now they don't have access to it, what are they to do? We've got clinicians who aren't educated on treating it. We've got the potential of them seeking relief in other more harmful substances. And so I think her name was Lisa, the first gal who gave the online testimony. I did really appreciate what she said about warning, and I think there was a mention made about a warning of not to mix with alcohol, but the warning needs to be much more severe as far as like, this product is potentially forms dependence and highly addictive, and people need to know exactly what they're getting and how harmful it is to them. And so I'm really supportive, if we're going to regulate it and not do a total ban on natural kratom, of people having a very specific warning and potentially maybe a QR code leading them to education about what exactly they're getting in that product, and how to get resources for addiction if they feel their tolerance is increasing, and they're having, they need resources, especially in those more underserved areas. I do also obviously support the ban of synthetic kratom. I think we should prohibit unsubstantiated medical claims, including claims that kratom treats anxiety, insomnia, pain, addiction, or opioid withdrawal. And
This woman is
absolutely
on one.
banning any kratom to adults 21 and older, or
right.
restricting it to adults 21 and older. Oh, look. I think that is all that I had. And I appreciate your time, but I'm certainly open to questions.
I think that's enough,
Questions from the
baby.
committee? Senator Axman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Gervais. Do you know, I'm not sure, I guess, how long the Ridge has been open, but maybe even your previous experience. When was your first, when did you first start seeing patients seeking treatment or services in regards to kratom?
I would say early on, probably back in 2013, 2014. Back then, I was really interested in it, and I actually attended a conference on it at American Society of Addiction Medicine because I wanted to get more educated. Like I said, I was limited to 25 patients, and I was thinking at the time it could be a potential opioid replacement. So early on, but it was a really small number. There's no doubt it's drastically increased over the last couple of years. But I've been seeing it for many years. I think we're a harm reduction clinic. And so I think my stance has changed quite a bit. And early on, I was thinking, why not just stay on it? Because I think I had patients that were maybe running into financial restrictions, and that's why they were seeing me. They couldn't afford to stay on it. And so they were wanting to get off of it. But then I was stuck with what to do. And so I was more interested in maybe we should just manage it and keep them on it. And I wanted to get more education. I think as time has gone on and I realize how much inconsistency there is in the product and how unregulated it is, I struggle with that stance. And so I've swayed a bit over the last couple of years with that.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gervais, have you done any research or looked at what was talked about this morning with the Kratom Protection Act that 21 other states have passed to put that framework and those guardrails in place like you had said in your presentation?
Yeah, I haven't much. Most of what I've learned about that was from this morning. But like I said, I'm really caught between a total ban until we can figure it out. Because what I also am concerned about is, if you're putting leaf product on the leaf product, I put it in parentheses or in quotations because who's testing it and who's regulating it, and do we, as a state, do we have the resources to really properly monitor that? And I don't think so is my answer. And so my concern is that, yeah, I know there are other states that are implementing that kind of regulation, but my fear is that it's going to be poorly regulated and poorly monitored. And what's actually going to be on the shelves is not going to be what's advertised as natural kratom. I think it's going to be a really difficult thing to implement.
So let me continue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would ask that you kind of take a look at that and even get back to us and let us know once you look at it and have kind of an education process of seeing how that fits. But the other question I have is, being from the eastern part of the state, you're touching up against two states that have different regulations on kratom. And being from a university town, I would like to hear your thoughts on what's going to happen with that bridge that crosses the Mighty Red and that interstate system that heads right to South Dakota. If we present ourselves as an island to kind of our three direct neighbors.
Well, I think that's a really good question, and we really ran into this early on with recreational cannabis is legal right across the river in Minnesota. But I think my opinion is we can't legislate based on what our neighbors are doing. To me, that doesn't make sense. But with cannabis, Fargo runs into it all the time because they can just go right across the river and there's a dispensary that's perfectly legal across the street. That doesn't mean you can go into Fargo and not get in trouble for it. My other thought with that, which is kind of an extraneous thought, was there was a point brought up this morning with what's going to happen to business financially if it's made illegal. And again, I think the argument of what your neighbors are doing or what's going to happen financially, I think those things are factors, but I don't think that they can play into what's appropriate and what's safe for the residents of North Dakota. As a business owner, things are changing all the time that take away grossly from my revenue. And it's terrible and it's stressful, but that I have to figure that out. And so I think when you're worried about what this state's doing and you're worried about what's going to happen financially to the state, I think in the end you have to do what's safe and what's appropriate for the residents. And we as business owners, we're always trying to manage the bottom line. And so I don't think that can be a part of your decision-making process, unfortunately. I think you just have to do what's going to keep your residents safe. And when you're having overdose deaths, when you're feeding an opioid crisis, that's what your decision has to be based off of.
One more follow-up.
You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, with the comparison to recreational marijuana, so as a state, we've taken a totally different approach and just said, here's a parking ticket if you exceed this amount. So we really haven't said recreational marijuana is okay, and the voters have said no, that medical marijuana is the only thing. But we've pretty much taken away any stick or club or process that would make it something that would keep people from just driving across and getting it. Are you suggesting then that we do the same thing with Kratom and make it a parking ticket, that if you possess it in North Dakota because you bought it in Minnesota or South Dakota, that
She better not
here's
say
your
yes.
parking ticket?
Yeah, no, I don't think people should go to jail for it, but I'm really on the side of keeping people out of jail and really trying to get them into some sort of care. So yes, I think I would be more supportive of it being a minor offense versus a felony or something like that as far as a possession charge. But I think there should be some sort of legal consequence to possession. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, whoa, lady.
Senator Dever.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Gervais, I'm just curious, if we ban it, how do you deal with your clients who are addicted to it?
Yeah, and that's my concern too. I think we would probably have to, the work group and people involved, I mean, I think there needs to be a significant education piece as far as how do you educate clinicians on how to manage the patients that are withdrawing. But that's, like I said, that's why I'm somewhere between regulation and a ban. And I think deep down, I do support a total ban. But what do we do with all the people that are dependent? And I've been up since 2 a.m. because I was trying to make sense of this in my head, to be honest with you, and I just couldn't. But I think if there's a total ban, I think what needs to happen is people who have more experience with managing withdrawal, maybe there's some sort of an educational group that does some sort of like outreach as far as putting out some education about how we're managing this. I don't know if that's reasonable, but that's what I was more thinking of, that's a component.
So would you maybe suggest that we allow it on a narrow basis to those people that need it, and then only under medical supervision?
But how do you do that?
Man,
and who's
take it
determining
out.
who needs it? And then I think to me that's really complicated. So I think I don't think you can do a partial ban. I don't know how I don't know how that would look. But it's an interesting thought. I said I don't know how that would look. And again, my concern with who needs it is consistency with the product that's really unregulated and untested by the federal government. So how are we going to implement that here in the state? It's really a complicated problem to solve. But if that were possible, like I'm not going to stand here and say there's absolutely no medical benefit from kratom. I mean, I think certainly it could be established, but it's not FDA approved. I think that it would be difficult to find a medical provider who is willing to prescribe, because just to be clear, we don't prescribe cannabis either. We can authorize that someone has a qualifying condition that allows them to get a medical card. But in no states that I know of do we prescribe cannabis. All we do is allow you to go to the dispensary and get cannabis for your condition, whether it's PTSD or anxiety or chronic pain, whatever the case may be. But no one's prescribing cannabis. So the kratom would probably be the same way.
You can't prescribe a
Further
plant.
questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank
coming
you.
down. Okay, we will go back online and speak with Ms. Cassandra Altringer. Okay. We're ready for you.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead. We have you.
Yeah, I agree, Kate. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we have you.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Cassandra Altringer. I am a family nurse practitioner at Coal Country Community Health Center in Killdeer, North Dakota. For those of you that don't know, we're about 34 miles away from Dickinson. Population here is just under 1,000. I have been working in family medicine for over 10 years at this point. I started doing addiction medicine here about 6 years ago. I basically want to talk to you guys about what I have been seeing over here. I've been trying to listen in this morning. I am finding that what I'm seeing over here seems to be a lot different than what you guys are seeing in the bigger cities. Basically, what I've seen a lot of is people unintentionally starting the use of kratom. I have seen the 708
Nobody's
too,
advertising
but,
natural kratom that
we
way.
know FDA is regulating that. State of North Dakota is as well. So for the purposes of what I'm going to talk to you guys about, I would primarily like to talk about kratom. Most of my patients that I see come through here, they come in usually in withdrawal, unaware. So in Killdeer, we have a few convenience stores here, and they had the kratom products, whether it was in, the shot form, different ways people could get it. People are basically picking it up because it is advertised for energy. It's advertised to help people relax as well. I actually went into some of the convenience stores myself, and this was probably about 6 months ago. And I was looking at all of the labeling. Unless you knew what the scientific name for kratom was, most people have zero idea what it is. They're buying it off the shelves for whatever purpose it's being marketed for. The people I am seeing in Killdeer are coming in here when they try to stop using the products. So these are people that are in a position that they are spending hundreds to thousands of dollars on these products and not realizing that they are addicted to them or having an issue until they try to stop. That's usually when they're coming into my clinic. I am seeing people from Williston, Watford City. We have people from all the surrounding counties as well that are seen in our clinic. Everyone is kind of talking about people using it for pain, also just get off of opioids. That is not generally what I've seen in my practice over here. It is a lot of truck drivers. I'm also a provider that does a lot of DOT exams. So I am very well aware of what our expectations are as far as safety goes. We are in the middle of the Bakken, so that means there's a lot of semis, a lot of big trucks over here. My most common people that are using these products are truck drivers. You are not supposed to be operating commercial vehicles with opioids. I do not believe, and I have seen in most of my drivers, kratom is not safe either. I am not opposed to us finding a way to regulate this. However, we are now in a spot, and I've already seen it, which are us taking kratom off the shelves just happened last week. I have already had patients coming in our clinic in Little Killdeer and double booking to help people manage the withdrawal symptoms. Again, when I'm referring to my patients, I'm talking about the ones that are using kratom, not the 708 tablets, although I've seen my fair share of that as well. So from my point of view at this point, when people come in, it's usually what I've seen with opioid withdrawal as well. I'm used to treating patients with, fentanyl withdrawal, pain pills. It looks very similar to me. And for my patients, it does too. And a lot of these people are not people that have had previous issues with addiction. A lot of these people, they've never been addicted to pain pills. They've never used fentanyl. They've never used heroin. These are people that are genuinely buying things off of a shelf because they think it's going to give them a boost of energy, or they think I'm working 16-hour shifts, I'm rotating, I need to be able to sleep tonight. So then they buy that to help them sleep in the evening time. Those are the biggest concerns I'm seeing here. Some of the patient cases that I just wanted to share with you guys. We did have a patient that earlier in his life, he was addicted to heroin. He was a part of our program probably about 10 years ago. He was on Suboxone, which is a medication that we use to help people with the withdrawal symptoms with opioids. We have found it does work for kratom and 7-OH as well. He ended up buying a shot of kratom at a convenience store, and it pretty much put him back at square one. He is in our program again.
Bet it was 7-OH.
It was very difficult for him to get off kratom, and he compared it and said it was worse than when he tried to stop using heroin. So to me, that kind of spoke volumes, just on a personal level, of what I'm seeing over here. Again, like I said, I do prescribe Suboxone. That is seemed to be helping people, and I do have patients that taper off of it. That's the goal at some point. And, you know, I've heard a lot of discussion about, you know, kratom not being addictive. That is not what I am seeing here. I've also heard some people say, you know, it doesn't cause death. It doesn't cause anything like that. We actually had someone local that had passed away. This was in 24. He was 21 years old. He was using the whole leaf kratom. He was not using the shots. He was using the powder. He was using it kind of to self-treat PTSD. He did end up passing away. He passed away, and that was the only substance that was in his toxicology screen. So that is something that really sticks in my mind when I think about all of these things, is that family in particular. I'm from a smaller town, so the patients that I see here, these are patients that I know pretty well, and I have been seeing them for 10 years or more at this point. In our program here, I am doing my best now, and I will continue to try to do my best to accommodate the people that are trying to come off of these substances, whether it's 7-OH or kratom. I have found in clinical practice the 7-OH seems to be much more difficult and requires higher doses of Suboxone for people to be able to get rid of the withdrawal symptoms. Again, I think the biggest thing I would like to drive home with everyone, you know, we're all the way over here, very rural compared to, you know, Bismarck, Grand Forks, Fargo area. We don't have a lot of resources over here. People travel long distances to see me. And, you know, and it's just for services, so they're able to go to work every day, so they're able to care for their children, so they're able to pay their bills. I have had couples coming in here, husbands and wives that come in here together because they are using the products together. I've had a lot of patients that usually will start out using kratom with the intent, you know, natural, safe substance, and then they progress to the 7-OH, which now that's off the shelves, which is great. I think we can all agree on that. But I think that a lot of people are underestimating the danger that kratom can pose at this point. And the first time I saw kratom addiction in a patient was when I first started doing this 6 years ago. I think we had maybe one. Now I would say that 1/4 of my patients are with us for kratom use.
It's 7-OH.
I think the biggest thing right now that I think a lot of us have touched on, you know, safety. Again, we don't want adolescents getting a hold of this stuff, right? But as with like vaping, alcohol, they certainly could. I mean, it's definitely something I've thought about, especially with my own children living in a small town, knowing that almost every convenience store in this town was carrying those products. I mean, these are conversations I've had with my own children, with every family member I have, because what I have found is that it is not people using these products that are intentionally trying to abuse them or trying to treat, you know, an opioid addiction or anything like that. These are people that are genuinely, I want a shot of energy, I want to be able to sleep tonight. They are using it for what it's being marketed for without having any awareness of the issues that it can cause. Again, it seems like it's a little bit different what I'm seeing over here than from the bigger cities. I really wanted to speak today just to let you guys know, I mean, this is definitely a problem in rural Western North Dakota as well. I did speak to our county commissioners in Dunn County recently, and it was surprising to me, especially the older generation. A lot of people don't know what this is or the dangers that it poses. And I think, even if we come down to a point where we're regulating it, the thing I wonder a lot is when people say it's natural, it's herbal. I have yet to meet someone that has a tree in their house and is picking a leaf off and putting it in tea. I've never heard of anybody doing that. I mean, these are products that are harvested, processed, manufactured, and generally shipped here. So, I mean, where do we draw the line, I guess, is the question. I've been doing a little bit of research just to try to figure out, we talk about 7-OH being a component of kratom, in a very small amount. But based on what I've read about the tree itself, I mean, you got to consider where it's being grown, the climate, the soil. It comes down to things like that as to what chemicals are going to grow in those leaves. Which, if we're going to regulate it, I think where are the resources going to come from? But just like, marijuana places that grow it, they grow it in-house. So, I mean, is that something that would be reasonable for people to consider? I guess it would come down to resources and funding. But again, right now there are no approved medical uses for kratom. So that's the other thing that I think about as well.
Oh, God.
I guess when it comes down to, going into a special session, I think what I would really like everybody to consider is the kratom dependency. This is not a hypothetical thing. This is something we are seeing in clinic and treating people for as a dependency. It is very real. I have patients that, like I said, when it comes to what we consider in society in our communities, we want people to be able to be healthy and take care of their families and work jobs. And that is my big goal with patients, whether it's opioid addiction or kratom or 7-OH, is to try to get someone back into that healthy stance that they are a productive member of society again. So any questions for anybody about
Whoa.
anything I've been seeing or experiencing over here?
Questions?
I'm a productive member of society because of kratom.
I do have
Not
one,
because of
ma'am.
Suboxone you prescribed.
You'd made a comment about you've seen patients that were on what I am referring to as natural kratom or the derivative of natural kratom that have moved up to 7-OH. Have you talked to those patients about why they moved up? Give us some background on what you've seen in the move.
Yep. So when I have patients that start with the kratom powder,
I know,
talking,
Becky.
like it comes in a bag,
He
and
just
that's
keeps
how they're taking,
talking.
whether it's tea or ingesting the powder any which way, it is usually because they are using so much and not getting the same effect. And 7-OH, as far as what I've seen over here in Killdeer and in Dunn County, 7-OH was not something that was very familiar to me until about 8 months ago. And to be honest, as soon as I started seeing the amount of patients and 7-OH, that is when I started writing letters to our legislatures, to Governor Armstrong. I will be honest, when I saw the executive order to take kratom off the shelves, I literally felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because of.
You felt your pockets getting fatter. I don't know why it froze, Jen.
Wage, it came to the 7-OH.
This is on their end, you guys, not on our end.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you refresh your page? That's what I was doing.
Talk. We all are.
Classic presentation for any substance that binds to the opioid receptors in our brain. Kratom binds to these same receptors.
December of 2017 was the first time that I remember seeing a patient who was struggling with a kratom addiction. He was telling me about the substance that he was buying online because it helped him with his chronic pain. It was a leafy substance and he was chewing on it. What he described was that as time passed, he had to basically have it in his mouth at all times in order to relieve his pain. When he didn't have it, he said he felt like he had the flu. It became all-consuming for him and ultimately came to treatment. If I'm being honest, I thought he was being a little bit dramatic because I thought it was some kind of a tea substance. And everything I read online said that kratom withdrawal wasn't a thing. Within 12 hours, he was as sick as anyone that I have seen coming off of fentanyl or heroin, and we started him on a medication to help with withdrawal and cravings. Since that time, I've seen kratom use intermittently until recently, when I've been seeing on a very regular basis. Now it is people who are using the psychoactive component of kratom, which is 7-OH. The FDA reports that 7-OH is more potent than prescription morphine. It often starts out innocently enough. Someone at work mentions that this might help with your back pain, or this will help you focus, or to help you get your day started. Unfortunately, once it starts, the use often escalates, and pretty soon people can't go without it or they experience withdrawal. Opiate withdrawal is miserable. The withdrawal from any substance is the opposite of the intoxicating effects. Opiates are downers, so the withdrawal is an excitation of every part of your system. People experience sweats, chills, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and anxiety, insomnia, restlessness, runny nose, watery eyes, yawning, and body aches. It's as if they have the flu and they know exactly how to fix it. All they have to do is take the substance that they're withdrawing from, and in this case, it's 7-OH, which is often marketed as kratom. The marketing and labeling for these products is very problematic to me. A market analysis in 2025 of kratom and 7-OH found that 69% featured child-appearing flavors or scents, and 63% used bright colors in packaging and labeling. This is meant to mislead people into believing these products are safe, which unfortunately lends itself to accidental or intentional ingestion by children or adolescents. The labeling many times isn't clear about what is actually contained in the package. I've worked with several people who've been using kratom for a period of time, were not having adverse effects, and then unbeknownst to them, they started using 7-OH, which wasn't mentioned on the labeling clearly. Once they started ingesting the 7-OH, that is when they started having adverse effects. The data is pretty clear that people who have previously battled a substance use disorder or are currently struggling with a substance use disorder are at increased risk of abusing and misusing kratom. It's accessible and it's marketed as being helpful. Unfortunately, many of them end up being blindsided by the potency and the addictive potential. At Heartview, we've been seeing people come in with years of sobriety who started getting kratom at the local gas station, and now their lives are once again consumed with the substance and they're at risk of losing everything all over again. When we work with patients coming off of heroin or fentanyl, we often utilize FDA, methadone, and buprenorphine to help with the cravings and withdrawal so that they can function and reclaim their lives. We are using these same medications to help people come off of kratom and 7-OH because they don't tolerate the withdrawal or the intense cravings. Tolerance develops to most illicitly used substances, including opioids. Average doses of methadone prior to the fentanyl epidemic were 80 to 120 milligrams a day. Now with fentanyl, we're seeing average doses being 120 to 180. Those are the same doses we're using for people that are trying to come off of kratom and 7-OH due to the high potency of these substances. Doses that high of methadone would be lethal for most of us sitting in this room, and that's what it requires. And these people are buying the substance at a local gas station. I do understand that during the last legislative session, both chambers voted against a ban on kratom. I want you to know that the kratom that we are dealing with today is not the kratom that you were seeing in 2025. This is a different animal. It is dangerous. It is addicting. It is often labeled as kratom, though it is different. It is too easy to get, and it's readily available to our kids. I don't see people that are reporting any benefit from these substances. I see people whose lives are being ruined by these substances. And as for case reports of benefits, I have patients that sit in my office and tell me meth is a great weight loss drug, or that it helps them with focus, or that fentanyl helps their anxiety and it helps them sleep. Case reports aren't science. They are individual experiences. I don't think that we should continue to put people's lives at risk because of individual experiences when the science is demonstrated dangerous. In preparation for today, I was doing some research on 7-OH. I came across an article that really sums up my thoughts. It was Scott Alsbrook and his team at the University of Arkansas. He concluded that 7-OH products, as they are currently formulated and marketed, present a significant and unreasonable risk of illness and death. There is no peer-reviewed evidence to suggest that these products are safe for consumer use. No.
Oh, come on!
your time and I'd be happy to.
Questions for Dr. Hinkie? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Hinkie, so I don't know if you got to listen to or heard any of the testimony from this morning, but, you know, there was conversations and folks that were testifying saying that natural leaf is similar to caffeine, and that the withdrawal symptoms are similar to caffeine. We're basically kind of putting a split between the natural leaf products and the 7-OH, because I think that everyone agrees that the level of addiction and problems with the 7-OH is very evident, and the FDA already took a step. And so we're just going to mirror with a state crime what's already a federal crime. So our big argument coming up in 2.5, 3 weeks is going to be, what do we do with the natural leaf? What do we do with that product, which is being proclaimed to be not the dangerous product that 7-OH is? And so our argument, you know, I don't see our argument even being whether or not to ban the synthetics and the parasynthetics and the derivatives of the natural leaf. Our issue is going to be, what do we do with the natural leaf products? Do we look at something like the Kratom Protection Act that 21 other states have done? Do we make ourselves an island with the 3 states around us? Do we worry about interstate commerce going through with people buying an energy drink in Minnesota and being pulled over for speeding in North Dakota? Do we make it a traffic ticket? It's going to be a big deal. And I'm just kind of, I wanted to lay out everything that's kind of in my brain. Not that I'm laying on your couch or that I ever have.
No.
I just want to hear your take on what we're going to be faced with. And the 7-OH isn't one of them.
Right.
I want to hear your thoughts on what the real issue is going to be in 3 weeks.
Thank you, Representative Porter, for that question. I would say that withdrawal from Kratom is not like caffeine withdrawal. It's not a mild headache and a little bit of irritability. It is, as my patients would call it, being dope sick. It is an all-out flu. Now, potentially, if someone is using a small amount every now and then, they're not going to have that. But the same is true for someone who uses a small amount of caffeine every now and then. They also don't have any withdrawal. But I think part of my concern is who's going to regulate what is what, right? We know the labeling on these containers is not factual, right? I have patients all the time that say they said it was, I've been using Kratom, I send their drug screen and there is no mitragynine in it, but there is 7-OH, but I don't know that until I send it in. So if we're going to say, okay, yep, 7-OH is out, but we're going to allow mitragynine, who's policing that? Are you trusting the people that are labeling the cans?
Assign a department.
I don't know how we do that, right? And so that is my concern. And I also think people have the right to choose, right? I can go and make a poor choice this afternoon if I want to. It's my legal right to do that. But we got to protect our kids. And I know that not a lot of people have sympathy for my patients, right? My patients are long-term substance users who finally find recovery, but they are absolutely being blindsided by these substances in the gas stations. They're going in and they've been sober for years. They go to meetings, they do all the things, and pretty soon they're driving around at 3 a.m. looking for a gas station where they can buy some Kratom because they're so dope sick they can't function.
7-OH.
And that's a problem for me. When someone works really hard to find recovery, it's not fair that they get duped by going to the gas station and all of a sudden they're spending $80 to $100 a day. That's a drug habit, right? That's not
7-OH.
a caffeine habit. That's a drug habit. And so what we're doing now, I don't know how you distinguish, oh yeah, this is going to be the natural metragenine plant
It's not
without
that
any of
hard.
this other stuff.
They make it
Who's
so
going to be going in and testing that? I don't know how we do that. It took us how many years to get to the point where we had medical THC that was grown here and regulated here and all of those things. Are we going to start growing our own metragenine so that we know what's in it? That doesn't seem feasible to me. And I don't think we have another 4 years to sort this out. In the last 6 months, the numbers we are seeing from both kratom and 7-OHs, it's skyrocketing.
It's just 7-OH,
And
dear.
to the gal from Killdeer's point, people are being blindsided by it. Someone at work says, "Oh, you've got a headache. You should take this. Oh, your back hurts because we're back to that blue collar work in the spring. You should just take this. It'll fix you right up." And then all of a sudden, they're in the throes of it again, and that's problematic for me. And it is not caffeine withdrawal. I just
You did not answer his question
that's a
at all.
fallacy.
Senator Dever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems to me, Dr. Hankey, that the most attractive thing to kratom for people is that it's affordable and accessible. So I'm curious, and I think there are some positive benefits and there are negatives as well, but are there other products that would be as effective for the same purposes?
No.
Thank you, Senator Dever, for that question. Are you talking about like a pharmacologic, like go to your doctor, get a prescription for a substance that...
Who's getting a prescription these days?
Or
I think that would be a fair approach.
Sure. I mean, what I'm seeing with my patients, they're seeking the opioid benefits, right? They're seeking the pain control, they're seeking the anxiolytic, but they also get a little bit of a stimulant bump from it. So when they're coming off of it, we're utilizing buprenorphine and methadone so that they can not have the cravings and withdrawal and go back to work and function. As far as what could they have used ahead of time, right? So to avoid using the kratom at all, is there something? I mean, that really depends on what their chronic pain is, and they need to work with their medical provider to see if there is a prescription medication or if it is physical therapy or what alternatives we could utilize. As far
You think we ain't went all those routes?
Physiology, I don't think there is no clear cut, this is a replacement for kratom that we have, but I do think there are better ways to manage pain than going to your gas station. And I think it requires a relationship with your medical provider and your treatment team. Does that answer your question?
You go get 800 milligram ibuprofen prescribed. That's it.
Further questions from the committee?
You're going to get non-FDA approved
Yeah, thanks for having
Time
me.
out of your day and coming up and visiting us.
injections.
Next, we will have Miss Molly Howell.
This is frustrating.
Yeah.
Fuck you, 7-OH. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thanks. Chairpersons Axman and Heinert and members of the Kratom Working Group, my name is Molly Howell, and I'm Director of Disease Control and Forensic Pathology at the North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services. I appear before you today to provide information regarding deaths associated with metragenine and related compounds in North Dakota. I will also provide data on metragenine and 7-hydroxymetragenine, also known as 7-OH, related healthcare visits. Since 2019, the department's violent death reporting program has reviewed all overdoses in the state. Between 2019 and June of 2026, the department received death certificate reports of 24 deaths in which metragenine, 7-OH, or pseudo, which is also known as metragenine pseudoindoxyl, were identified as either the primary cause of death or a contributing factor. In 23 of these cases, these substances were identified as the primary cause of death. In other words, the medical examiner or the coroner determined that the substance or condition directly caused the death. In one case, metragenine was identified as a contributing factor. meaning it played a role in the death but was not the primary cause. To put this distinction simply, the primary cause of death is the condition or substance that directly resulted in the death, while a contributing factor played a role in the circumstances leading to death or worsened the condition that caused the death. Another example, not using overdoses, a person may have long-standing chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, but also suffer a stroke. The stroke causes a decline in health, which ultimately leads to that individual's death. In that case, the stroke would be identified as the primary cause of death because it was the condition that directly resulted in the person's death. But chronic obstructive pulmonary disease would likely be identified as a contributing factor on the death certificate because it likely worsened the clinical outcome but was not the immediate cause of death. 5 of the 24 deaths that I just talked about occurred in the first half of 2026. By comparison, there were 4 such deaths during all of 2025. This
7
means
OH.
that through June of 2026, the number of reported deaths has already exceeded the reported for the entire previous year. I have provided a table showing the number of mitragynine and associated compound-related deaths per year in North Dakota. You can see that the deaths started in 2021. That was the first year of us reporting deaths with 2. There were 7 in 2022, 3 in 2023 and 2024, 4 in 2025, and through June of 2026, there have been 5 reported deaths. These deaths are mostly occurring in males at 75%, and in the 20 to 39-year-old age group, which accounts for 75% of deaths, and they're mostly occurring in Western North Dakota. At 92% of our deaths are from Western North Dakota. In Table 2, I'm showing the mitragynine and associated compounds that were identified on toxicology amongst the 24 deaths. And so we use the term kratom on the table, but really it was mitragynine that was found in toxicology. And so mitragynine was found in 19 of the deaths. An additional death had mitragynine, but it's pending further testing, so there's likely something else there, maybe pseudo or 7-OH. We're waiting on testing on that one. We had one that was confirmed kratom and 7-OH. One is presumed 7-OH, and that is because 7-OH was found at the scene, but unfortunately toxicology for that person was not available or unable to be done. One was kratom or mitragynine, 7-OH, and pseudo. And then another one was 7-OH and pseudo.
Knew it.
Most overdose deaths reported in North Dakota involve multiple substances identified as either a primary cause or a contributing factor. Of the 23 deaths where mitragynine or its associated compounds was a primary cause, only 4, or 17.4%, involve mitragynine or an associated compound without any other drugs present. 2 of the 4 were confirmed as just mitragynine. 1 was mitragynine, 7-OH, and pseudo, and 1 was 7-OH. The presence of other substances does not mean that mitragynine was unrelated to the death. Toxicology identifies which substances were present, but it does not by itself determine which substance caused or contributed to the death. The medical examiner or the coroner considers the toxicology results, concentrations, known effects of the substances, interactions between the substances, autopsy findings, circumstances of death, and medical history to make that determination. Therefore, when mitragynine or an associated compound is identified as a primary cause of death or contributing factor, that determination reflects more than simply detecting the substance. It reflects the medical examiner's or coroner's determination that that substance played a role in the death. In addition to these 24 deaths, there were 26 other non-natural deaths where mitragynine or associated compounds were identified on toxicology but not listed as a primary cause or contributing factor. This also shows that the medical examiner and coroner doesn't just look at toxicology and put mitragynine on the primary cause of death. If it was in toxicology, they determine whether it was a cause of death. The deaths in North Dakota demonstrate that kratom and its active compounds, including mitragynine and 7-OH, are associated with serious and in some cases fatal outcomes. These deaths underscore the need for comprehensive action to reduce the potential harms associated with these products. A policy that addresses only 7-OH would leave other kratom products and mitragynine-containing products available. If the goal is to reduce kratom-related harms and deaths in North Dakota, addressing only one compound would not address the broader range of kratom products and compounds that are implicated in other deaths. I'm now going to talk about syndromic surveillance of kratom and 7-OH-related healthcare visits. So I'll touch a little bit on what syndromic surveillance is, as many people don't even know that that's something that we do in North Dakota. But syndromic surveillance is a public health system that collects and analyzes information from patient visits to ERs and some walk-in clinics. Healthcare visit information is de-identified and grouped into a syndrome or a category of visits that share similar signs, symptoms, diagnoses, or characteristics. We often use it for influenza-like illness to know what the burden of flu is on healthcare during respiratory season. The following data was extracted from our syndromic surveillance system looking for kratom and 7-OH among the chief complaint, discharge diagnosis, chief complaint history, triage notes, and clinical impressions. It is important to note that these data do not necessarily represent confirmed cases of kratom or 7-OH or poisoning. Rather, they represent visits where 7-OH or kratom was identified through ICD codes or free text information on the healthcare encounters. Individuals included in this data may have sought care for any reason, and the presence of kratom or 7-OH does not by itself establish that it caused the visit or was necessarily the reason for the visit. So the data that we looked at started back in 2023, but so far in 2026, as of July 29th, 2026, there have been 68 kratom and or 7-OH related visits this year identified through our syndromic surveillance system in North Dakota. For comparison, in all of 2025, we had 68 visits identified for kratom or 7-OH. If the current pace continues, 2026 is on track to almost double the number reported in 2025. Since 2021, the majority of kratom or 7-OH related visits have occurred amongst men, 64%. The largest proportion of visits are in that 30 to 39-year-old age group, 38.9%. Since 2021, 13 visits have involved individuals ages 19 and younger, so that does include children, of course. Geographically, the majority of identified kratom and 7-OH visits in our syndromic surveillance system have also occurred in Western North Dakota at 66%. Table 3 in my testimony is showing the number of kratom and or 7-OH visits to ERs and walk-ins in North Dakota 2021 through 2026. These surveillance findings demonstrate a substantial increase in the number of healthcare visits related to kratom and or 7-OH, particularly when comparing 2026 to previous years. While syndromic surveillance cannot establish confirmed cases or causation, it does provide an early indicator of emerging patterns, and the increase is concerning and is broader evidence of potential harm associated with these products. And then last, I'm going to touch on mitragynine and 7-OH poison control data for North Dakota. North Dakota uses the Hennepin Healthcare Poison Center. That is also showing an increase in reported exposures involving mitragynine or 7-OH. Poison Center data provides important information about reported exposures, clinical effects, healthcare utilization, but it is voluntary and should not be interpreted as representing the total number of exposures occurring in a population. In the first 7 months of 2026, the number of kratom or 7-OH calls to the Poison Control Center matched the total yearly calls for 2025. Since 2023, 11 calls have been associated with those ages 19 and younger. I've shown in Figure 1, you can see the number of calls per year from North Dakota made to Poison Control regarding kratom and or 7-OH. North Dakota is not alone in experiencing an increase in kratom exposures. I have linked an article to CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, which has national poison data system. It shows approximately a 1,200% increase in kratom-related exposures in the last 10 years, and then an even markedly increase in 2025. So in conclusion, taken together, the trends in fatalities, ER, walk-in clinic visits, poison control reports provide multiple indicators of increasing concerns related to metragine, 7-OH, and other kratom products. From a public health perspective, the department is concerned about the widespread availability of these products, including their availability in settings as discussed by many people, gas stations, smoke shops, and potential for continued exposure and harm should they be made available again. Compounding these concerns is that there's no age restriction on purchasing kratom products in North Dakota. This lack of age restrictions allows minors unrestricted access to potent substances that carry demonstrated risks of toxicity, healthcare visits, and fatal outcomes. Unlike many substances with established safety and quality standards, these products are not currently subject to a comprehensive federal regulatory framework that establish requirements for safety or effectiveness or labeling. This lack of comprehensive regulation creates additional public health concerns. Consumers, as many have talked about, have limited information about the amount and concentration of metragine and 7-OH in products, and they're marketed under different names and vary in their contents and potency. For these reasons, the department supports comprehensive action to address kratom, its associated compounds, including metragine and 7-OH, rather than addressing 7-OH alone. I just wanted to say thank you to the department's health statistics and performance section, specifically Cody Pinks and Dr. Tracy Miller, who are here today for compiling this data, and to the Office of the Medical Examiner for its important contributions. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the committee? Ma'am, I'd like to go back to the autopsy talk that you had earlier in your presentation. Earlier this morning, we heard from one of the doctors of one of the national kratom situation.
Dr. Jack Hanningfield.
He was talking about he didn't feel that the autopsy reports were totally accurate, and I'm paraphrasing, because the doctors that were doing the autopsies were not 100% up to date on what they were looking for when they were looking for kratom, so they just wrote it off as a kratom death. Your testimony here kind of contradicts that from North Dakota autopsies. Can we talk about that a little bit? I mean, is there a better breakdown that we're missing, or is this really a good breakdown?
Chairman Heiner, members of the committee, I did discuss that with the medical examiner this morning, and also a team of us went through all of these reports. And as I stated, there were 26 toxicology results that included metragine, where that was not put on the autopsy report, meaning the coroner or the medical examiner specifically didn't feel that it interacted with whatever caused the death, or that the level or the amount warranted it being put on there. But the toxicology results for the metragine deaths that we've seen are extremely high, even the ones that are not just 7-OH, but just we have some that are just metragine, and they are high.
When you say high, can you give us a better figure than high? Because high to me and high to somebody else may be totally different.
I can. We had a range that we were looking at, like 3,000 nanograms per milliliter is what I can get the exact amount. I don't know, Cody, did you have?
31?
She's looking.
3,100?
They're not voting today.
And I should say it varies by autopsy in each case, so yeah.
So, but overall, you as the director of this division of the health department feel very comfortable with our medical examiners and our doctors who are doing autopsies in the state of North Dakota that they are properly classifying death certificates with this kratom system.
Might need to FOIA those.
Chairman Heiner, members of the committee, yes. This isn't just one medical examiner. This is multiple different medical examiners and different coroners from around the state that are classifying these. And yes, I am comfortable with that.
Meister, any other questions? Senator Dever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Molly, so it sounds like kratom has been around for a while in North Dakota, several years, has been really become a problem in the last few years, but right now it is increasing at a fairly quick rate. Does that sound right?
Chairman Heiner, Senator Dever, I can't speak to necessarily usage of kratom in North Dakota. We don't have that denominator data to say what is the rate of adverse events or deaths per, the population that uses kratom. But clearly, healthcare visits through our syndromic surveillance data, calls to poison control, and our fatalities have increased. That's the data that I can show that there is increasing concerns with kratom or associated compounds.
So is the information tracked less because it's a legal substance?
Chairman Heiner, Senator Dever, I think, and I would be interested to know if somebody can quantify how much kratom or mitragynine, if there's sales data or something, I'm sure because it's not regulated, that would be a very, very difficult number to get to. Also, a lot of FDA drugs that are regulated, you have safety surveillance systems where you're supposed to report adverse events to those safety surveillance systems, and that data is all tracked. So none of that would be tracked since kratom isn't an FDA regulated product.
I thought your staff was looking at you back there saying they had the answer for us, but maybe it wasn't.
Agreed. This is Cody Pink. She's the director of the Violent Death Reporting System in North Dakota.
Good afternoon, Ms. Pinks.
Violent. Thanks for having me. I do have your stats for you. Sorry. So for overdoses, for mitragynine, it was 6.7 to as high as 7,211 nanograms per milliliter.
Good Lord!
And then for suicides, for mitragynine, it was 20.4 to 1,339 nanograms per milliliter.
What?
Ooh, he's taking pictures.
That's going in a newspaper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What in the what?
Thank you, ma'am. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you taking the afternoon to come talk to us. Okay, committee, that concludes our presentations for this afternoon.
Oh, thank God.
We have time for working group discussion if we wish to do so. Anybody have any comments? Senator Axman.
Thank you, Chairman. Not a solution. I just think it was a good opportunity, and we took in a lot of information today. That's probably going to take some time for us individually even to digest. I think it was Mr. Vase who actually wrote it down. She said, this is a complicated problem to solve. And I think after today, we definitely saw that. And so although we have a really compressed timeline, I think it's incredibly complicated. And so thankfully, we got some really great information today for everyone that took the time to be here online and in the room. So it's time for us to get to work now.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm just kind of wondering what steps from here to special session. Is it just go off on our own individual pathways, or is it collectively sit down and work through some of the issues, some of the information that was presented today with some of the other national acts that are adopted by a fair number of states? I have concerns with us suddenly being an island. that's always a concern. And, you know, I guess if there's things that are working in other states to be a consumer protection kind of system, I would certainly be interested in learning more about that. I know that, you know, you hear a lot from people where they talk about, well, you know, 75% of the deaths in motor vehicle accidents in the state of North Dakota are alcohol related, and other comparisons to other legally available products. And there is a pretty big component of, you know, personal responsibilities. You know, I don't know that there's any medication that anyone should be taking without a physician when they're pregnant, that crossing over the placenta on everything, including herbals and teas, and you know,
yeah, that's common sense.
There's risks and complications with everything. Some of the numbers are alarming that Ms. Pinks gave us with the levels, when we heard from other people that it's impossible to overdose, and yet we see levels that are off the charts, that people have consumed and are laying on the table at the medical examiner's office. And, you know, so it's a I'm not sure I'm quite there yet with that the working group has concluded its work before we go into special session is kind of where I'm getting at more than any one thing. That I certainly hope that we can talk to Senator Hogue and get one or two more opportunities to look at more inner workings. Getting someone from NCSL or CSG that can give us more of an overview broadly of what's going on in other states and what they found. I'd love to hear from a state that has done a total ban to see what they did for criminal and non-criminal penalties and what they've done for the enforcement of it. Because, you know, when we do things like total bans, we certainly don't have the Kratom police. And if
precisely,
and under the same token, if we say that we adopt the Kratom, I gotta look back and see what they called it, the American Kratom
Consumer Protection Act.
The Kratom Protection Act. We also don't have the Kratom protection people either. And so, you know, we do have a very good framework, and I think we did a very good job on our medical marijuana program, and that framework and the card system, and if there is a component of people that are beneficial users of a product, maybe that's the route we go down, that they have to go to the same list of providers that we've gone through with our medical marijuana program, and they have to have that card in order to purchase the product or possess the product. And, you know, I think that over the course of time, having dealt with that issue in a number of sessions, we did a very good job of setting up a program that works very well for people who get a beneficial use from that product. But they're also being monitored and looked at by someone that has said they meet this criteria to have that card. And it's just not someone walking down the street that walks into a gas station and says, hey, I want to try that. And there's more guardrails in place. So those are just, you know, my thoughts of from listening the last two times of, I think that we've got a lot of good information. I don't think we're there yet. I think we need to meet again. And I think we need to dive in a little bit deeper into some of these other things that other states have done that, we don't have to try to invent or reinvent anything when you have 21 other states that have adopted stuff. And we have groups with CSG and NCSL that are there for us that we can bring in that can help guide us and give us the statistical information from the successes and the non-successes from those other states.
Senator Dever.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the special session is 3 weeks from today. As I think about it, I think the worst thing we can do in the special session is nothing. So whatever bill we put forward, we need to feel confident that it's going to pass. I also think that the regular session is coming up in January. So what we do in the special session doesn't need to be the final word on, or likely won't be. So I think of a couple of different approaches. One is we can decide what should be banned and sort that out. Another approach would be to ban everything, come back in January, and anybody can bring a bill to legalize whatever they would want to. So that's a little bit different approach.
You better not do that.
I'm not sure that we have the expertise to decide what's okay and what's not okay. And probably the most important part of that is if adults are going to be deciding for themselves whether they should use kratom or not, we need to have truth in advertising, and we need to have, they need to understand what the risks are. So prior to the governor's executive order, the full range of products was available anywhere in the state, for sale to anyone in the state, for sale to anyone of any age in the state. 31 states have either banned it or regulated it. It's well known that there are issues with that. I'm disappointed that the industry does not see some responsibility of their own.
What?
To in the way that they market it.
708 is
So
a
I think
part of
there
our
are
industry.
limits, and we need to define what those limits are.
Don't you conflate, don't you put 708 in our industry.
Just for an update for everybody, we have been directed by legislative management that we have until Friday at 5 o'clock to have bills done this Friday at 5 o'clock, and then on Monday, the 17th, next Monday, they will have a hearing as to see what bills are going to be allowed to put into special session. Wow. So when it comes to talk about whether we do this as a group or individually, I think individually is the best way to go with that background as to any members of the committee or anybody else who wants to bring in a kratom bill. As to next session, there is no doubt in my mind we're going to have kratom bills on the agenda. We found out that our last general session that ended in April of this year to today, we have all kinds of new data. Things have changed. The
708.
information they received last winter is no longer 100% accurate. Things have changed. Stats have changed. Numbers have changed. People have died. So I'm sure by the time we get to next session, January and February, we start hearing about this, these numbers are going to be different again that we heard today.
Yep.
And probably scarier as to the way it sounds, as to thoughts of what our medical services out in Kildare has said about going from natural, what I call natural, to the synthetic, because they need to get the high. That's a true opioid. That's now a true opioid. I mean, that's in my mind, that's what that is. So I think no matter what we do here, we need to pass a ban on synthetics. There's no question in my mind. I think we need to pass a ban on everything, just leave it as it is until next session. That would be my preference, but I don't know if that will happen.
Man,
I don't know if we have the votes for that. So at a bare minimum, I would like to say we pass a ban on synthetics and keep that as it is, and we put a 21-year-old and all kinds of guardrails on the what's called natural, which we find out isn't really all natural all the time.
Yeah, it
And
is.
set some parameters on that as a minimum, and then next session we'll have much more time to deal with this. I know Senator Axman and I have met with Legislative Council. They have done a tremendous amount of background work in dealing with other states and looking at other states and what they've done, and are working on some bills that we have asked to be worked on between the two of us. I guess I'm just hopeful that we get the ban on synthetics for sure, and that we get something put together for natural, some kind of system where we're not letting our kids walk into a convenience store and buy it across the counter. Or in one of the convenience stores I attend quite often, go into the cooler and pull out 3 cans, but they're on sale this week, 3 for $4, so you get 4 cans of it. And they walk out the door 12, 13, 14 years old and jump on their bikes and ride down to the river, and I don't know if they're coming back. It scares me.
So, Mr. Chairman, for legislative management's purpose, do we have to have a bill, or do we have to have the idea of a bill with a narrative on what would be included?
I believe that we have been given a little bit of leeway on that because we've met with Legislative Council. But I believe the bills were supposed to be done by Monday of this week. I will turn that over to Ms. Victoria.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Dever, the deadline for submission of a proposal for a bill to Legislative Council was Monday at noon. So you would have had to have submitted an idea or some sort of, framework prior to then to
Before the
have something
working
considered
group.
by legislative management on Monday. Those bills will be out to members of the assembly by noon on Friday.
Oh my
For
So I would
God.
think this being a special committee in a short time would have some special leeway.
Senator, we did meet that deadline, however. We had
Oh, we did.
We had proposals submitted.
Oh. Are you going to share with us what we approved?
Well, Senator Dever, to make sure, we had more than enough, so varied from nothing to the full ban on both, so that we could ensure we had proposals submitted early enough to meet the deadline, and options so that once we gained knowledge from testimony today, to then try to decide which the right ones to move forward with are. So.
And then just to further my understanding, the first day of the special session, we're going to have hearings on the bill. Then there will be opportunity for amendments to the bill. So if we decide to take a little different track, we can do that.
Mr. Co-Chairman, if I may add, yes, if there is any amendments that you're looking at once we see kind of the lay of the land on Monday following legislative management and what's approved by them, we can then work on preparing amendments of any sort to those bills that are chosen.
So all of the bills will be publicized following legislative management.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Dever, the bills will be publicized prior to, so you'll have all of the bills available to you on the legislative, the agenda for legislative management, and then following the meeting, we'll know which ones will be moving forward. So yes, they will be available.
So that setup that legislative management is using for this special session is the same as last special session. They are going to meet and decide which bills will be allowed to be brought on into committees. And then there will be an actual committee hearing on those bills during
And
special
approve
session.
the 2 bills that they're going to allow.
That's legislative management. I'm not part of that. Any other comments for the good of the order?
Well, I would just say, and I don't think we need to have a formal meeting, but I think the members of the working group should have a feel for what our strategy is going to be going into the special session.
Without a formal meeting, we have no right to discuss that amongst more than two of us at a time,
We're
because
not a
then we're
majority of
beyond.
the
then we're-
legislative body.
We are considered a formal working group. Senator Hogan has appointed us as a formal working group, so we have to abide by open records laws and open
Okay.
meetings laws.
I'll look forward to that meeting notice.
Okay, with that, we will talk to Senator Hogue about an additional meeting. I don't think we can get that in till after the deadline, so, and that might be okay, because then we might know what's coming, and we can talk about what we like, what we don't like
Oh,
about
we'll
each of the
just-
individual bills that makes it, and then we can
I
move
think-
forward from there, so.
I think that would be the smart thing, is to get back together prior to when the bill drafts have been approved by management, to then further look and work at that.
We will have legislative counsel contact Senator Hogan, and have that approved for us. Okay, hearing nothing else for this committee, we will be adjourned.
Oh, thank God. I'm ready to get up.
Oh, I know.
Oh, on. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. Whenever they do the hearing, we'll
Yeah.
definitely live stream it. But this was tough.
This was tough. This was tough to watch, for sure.
Ugh. All right, everybody have a good rest of y'all's day.